welcome to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
Welcome! And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents and sculptards and everybody else. All you Adamu out there. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, where we have very successfully, I think, recently controlled the tangents. Snaking it up. Snaking the tangents, making sure that there's just one. It's like a snake. Just one. Snakes have a hard time with tangents. They can only handle one at a time. Yep.
So I've gotten, over time, had a lot of feedback about Manuscript 512, which is the infamously worm-eaten, very fascinating and incredibly frustrating document about ancient shit in the Amazon. So I thought we would start with actually reading the text of that document, because it's fascinating. And when we talked about it before, I kind of just was like, yeah, so it was like this, and I gave this story of how I gave what I remembered of the story of how it came about to be, and then I sort of kind of off from memory just tried to describe what was in it. But the document itself is fascinating enough to where I think we should just read it verbatim on the show. The only problem is the parts where the worm ate stuff.
Yeah. Best pyramids.
All the best pyramids are eaten out of this document.
Speaking of pyramids, did you see that story where like this 8.5 mile pyramid was found at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean?
No, what?
Like off the coast of Mexico?
How did I miss that?
On Google Earth.
My weird news feed. I didn't see that. Where did you see that?
It's like it's on Google Earth. Somebody spotted this structure down at the bottom of it's off the coast of Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And it's anywhere from like 3.5 to 11 miles across.
Yeah,
on
okay.
one side or whatever.
I didn't see the story, but I'm familiar with the structure.
Some people are like, it's a UFO. These people in the comments are like, no, it's not, because it's not flying.
A USO?
It is unidentified.
Yeah.
And it's an object.
It could be a USO.
But it's not flying.
Right. Wait, is it a USO? Yeah, unidentified submerged object.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so no, I'm not familiar with the story, but I
just read it on the Drudge today.
think that I'm familiar with it because back when I was doing the whole, I'm a Facebook archaeologist armchair guy, and I was in all those groups. One of the groups that I was in, it was it was like this group grew out of all the other groups. So there was it was kind of like you had to be invited into it based on your, so the stuff you did in the other groups that were more open to anybody joining. People would see the stuff you posted or how you interacted, and they would say, hey, do you want to join this other group that's sort of more exclusive?
Yeah.
So I was in one of those, and one of the, and so in there, people were freely sharing things that they had discovered, that they thought maybe a discovery that they had made.
I guess somebody just figured out, maybe somebody else just discovered it again, or somebody just figured out that someone has discovered it because it was in the news today.
So if it's the same one, I don't know, but I remember that in this group there was a girl in there, and she was like, "Okay, guys, I fucking think that there's this giant pyramid on the ocean floor," and I remember it being. I kind of remember it being near the Americas, but I don't know if it could be off the coast of Mexico, but it was kind of near the Americas.
Yeah,
and I remember going there on my Google Earth and looking at it. And it's a pristine pyramid shape. If this, I don't know if it's the same one, but what she showed us was definitely you're on the ocean floor and there's this pyramid. And I was and they were all everyone in the group was like, oh my God, this is badass. Holy crap, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't think that's real, And so I eventually just said, I was like, look, the way Google Earth makes their three-dimensional landscape, so they cobble together all these pictures, and the software is trying to extrude into the third dimension things based on elevation information that they get from old maps, or like
Sonar shit.
Yeah, sonar stuff from ship crossings across the ocean. That's why when you back out and you're looking at the ocean in Google Earth, if you have the wave effect turned off so that you can just see the floor.
Yeah.
If you're kind of backed away, you'll see these weird lines kind of crisscrossing the ocean floor, and those lines are just areas of higher resolution where a ship dragging a sonar package has crossed the ocean. Right. And so it's the ocean floor is full of holes of data and other weird anomalies, and so you'll see these weird spikes and other things. And so I was like, I don't think that's a real pyramid. I just think that that's an artifact of the software trying to, like, somewhere in that flat plane, there's one anomalous really high point.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just connecting the nearest, making a pyramid shape.
Yeah. Well, maybe this will draw more people to go over there and hit it with some sonar.
Yeah.
Better data.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't know if it's the same one. I'll have to look that up to see. But I remember looking at it, and the tip of this one that she was showing us was humongous, and the tip of it came to within 100 or 50 feet of the surface of the ocean.
Yeah, I didn't have all that information in the story, but
right. I'm just remembering. I remember looking at. I've got screenshots of it. Well, I did before my hard drive failed.
Yeah. Anyway, tangent, but
no, that was great. I always forget. Like, you need to remind me. Like, I forget to say, like, so is there anything in the news at the beginning of the show, that we want to talk about? And that was cool. Yeah. Was there anything else?
Giant pyramids.
Nothing like Arctic things collapsing.
Oh no, there's. Yeah, I'm sure there was, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. So this 512 document, I can try reading this.
So what was the setup again? I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
Right. All the data's here. So like
show 5.
This kind of show 5 was pretty long ago.
Because we're at 33.
Yeah. 33. That's a good time to read this doc. So background info. In 1925, Colonel Percy Harrison Fawcett. Remember we talked about this?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that faucet's been turned off. Colonel Fawcett and his son Jack Fawcett and Raleigh Rimmelt entered the Amazon jungle to search for a lost city that, for some reason, Fawcett strangely named Z. It was to be his 9th and final expedition, as they were never seen or heard of again. It seems he based much of his belief of a lost city on an old document he found in the library archives at Rio de Janeiro in 1920. Labeled Manuscript 512, it arrived at Rio de Janeiro in 1754 and is about a Portuguese expedition into the Amazon interior in 1743. Okay, having already become intrigued with the rumors local Indians had told him about a lost city in the uncharted areas of the jungle, the information Fawcett read in this old document no doubt convinced him that they were true. Although Fawcett had, this paragraph I'm not sure about, but I'll read it anyway. Although Fawcett had great admiration for the Amazonian Indians and repeatedly refused to use force against them, even when attacked himself, he was not immune to the endemic racism of his time. He did not believe that the native Indians themselves had created this great city, but no doubt some lost European tribe, the Phoenicians or the lost tribes of Israel, had built the city before intermarrying with the Indians. He said he had seen white or fair-skinned Indians on his travels through the jungle. Now, see, that they're basically saying that because he didn't assume that the Indians had built the city, that he was basically racist.
Yeah.
And like, usually when you talk to these people, they say, we didn't build that.
Yeah.
So it's actually racist to insist that they did, even though they said they didn't. You're calling them liars. Damn it. I know I've made that point on the show before, but that stuff just annoys me. Okay. Presumably worried that someone would steal his chance of a great discovery, Fawcett was given to secrecy and cryptic notes where the lost city was concerned. Probably the reason he named it the nondescript Z, just to keep it secret, I guess. I don't think that's true. He theorized this lost city was located in the Mato Grosso region of the Brazilian Amazon jungle, between the upper Xingu and Tapajós rivers. Probably not saying those right. In this in part seems to be true, as he was last seen alive in this area at a place he named Dead Horse Camp. Now, I did talk about that. He shot a lame horse here on a previous expedition. So yeah, Dead Horse Camp was a place where he had gotten really far off into the jungle, and his horse had gotten sick and was, lame. I guess it had broken an ankle or a leg, and he killed it. And so he just named it that. He had Dead Horse Camp. This is where I shot my horse. When he entered the jungle in May of 1925, never to be seen or heard of again, no one knows his exact heading or ultimate destination, or even if he ever discovered the lost city. After reading Manuscript 512, it is plain to see why it convinced Colonel Fawcett that a lost city did indeed exist somewhere in the Amazon. Put yourself in his frame of mind at the time after hearing stories from some of the indigenous tribes about a lost city in the jungle, and then reading this manuscript. What do you think, or would you think the same as he did? Although the manuscript describes the city in great detail, frustratingly, it does not include a specific location. Or maybe it did, but, it was eaten by the worms. Please note, due to parts of the manuscript being eaten by the copium worm, parts of the text have been lost. Okay.
Fucking copium worms.
Yeah, damn worm. So, so the actual contents of the manuscript itself, and it starts out with missing text because the worm basically ate a giant chunk out of the top part of the pages. I'm assuming that the pages were rolled up because it kind of looks like when you look at the image, it looks like they had been rolled up and the worm was like eating into the middle of the roll, which would have been the top part of the page, right? Yeah. So it starts off with, in America, we inland, next to the, having for 10 years journeyed in the wilds to see if we could locate the famous silver mines of the great Morebeka. Let's see. Some of this is it's all translated too, so some of the translation is weird. Of the great Morebeka, by the wickedness of a governor, was not granted letters of patent because the governor wanted to take the silver mines for himself and the glory thereof. And he, the Morebeka, was kept prisoner in Bahia till he died, which was done to worm out of him. How interesting. To worm out of him the location of the silver mines. This account came to Rio de Janeiro in the beginning of the year 1754. After long and wearisome wanderings incited by the insatiable lust for gold and almost lost Cordillera of mountains. Cordillera? Yeah, Cordillera mountains, so high that they drew near the ethereal region and served as a throne of the winds under the stars, their luster from afar, excited our wonder and admiration. Principally when the sun shining upon them turned to fires the crystals of which the rocks were composed. The view was so beautiful that none could take their eyes from the reflections. It began to rain before we came near enough to take note of these crystalline marvels, and we saw above the spectacle was bare and sterile rocks. The waters precipitated themselves from the heights, foaming white like snow, struck and turned to fire by the rays of the sun like thunderbolts. Delighted by the pleasing vistas of that blended, shone and glistened of the waters and the tranquility of the day or weather, we determined to investigate these prodigious marvels of nature, spread out before us at the foot of the mountains, without hindrance of forests or rivers that would make it difficult for us to cross them. But when we walked round the foot of the Cordillera, we found no open way or pass into the recesses of these Alps and Pyrenees of Brazil. So there resulted for us from this disappointment an inexplicable sadness. We grew weary and intended to retrace our steps the next day when it came to pass that one of our Negroes, gathering dried sticks, saw a white deer, and by that accident, as it fled away, he discovered a road between two sierras that appeared to have been made by man and not the work of nature. We were made joyful by this discovery, and we started to ascend the road, but found a great boulder had fallen and broken all to pieces at a spot where, we judged, a paved way had been violently upheaved in some far-off day. We spent a good 3 hours in the ascent of that ancient road, being fascinated by the crystals, at which we marveled, as they blazed and scintillated in many flashing colors from the rocks. On the summit of the pass through the mountains we came to a halt. Thence, spread out before our eyes, we saw in the open plain greater spectacles for our vision of admiration and wonder. At the distance of about a league, as we judged, we saw a great city, and we estimated by the extent and sight of it that it must be some city of the court of Brazil. We at once descended the road towards the valley, but with great caution would be, in like case, ordered to explore by quality and, if so well as they had noticed, smokes, that being one of the evident signs or vestiges of the place. 2 days we waited, wondering whether to send out scouts for the inn we longed for, and all alone we waited till daybreak, in great doubt and confused perplexity of mind, trying to guess if the city had any people in it. But it became clear to us that there were no inhabitants. An Indian of our band determined, after 2 days of hesitation, to risk his life in scouting by way of precaution. But he returned, amazing us by affirming that he had met no one, nor could discover footsteps nor traces of any kind of any person whatsoever. This so confounded us that we could not believe we saw dwellings or buildings. And so all the scouts in a body followed in the steps of the Indian. So I want to break there and point out, like, they had an Indian tracker, right? A native tracker. And when that guy went down into the city, the reason when he came back he was sort of terrified was because he didn't just say that there was no people, that he could not find a single trace that anyone had ever been there. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, like
Suggesting it's really old.
right, that people, it's been abandoned so long that there are no signs at all left that anyone had ever been there ever. Okay. So is it clear what the parts where I'm reading where the breaks are? Like, is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's annoying, but yeah. Okay. Let's see. They now saw for themselves that it was true the great city was uninhabited. We all, therefore, now decided to enter the place, our arms ready for instant use at daybreak. At our entry, we met none to bar our way, and we encountered no other road except the one which led to the dead city. This we entered under 3 arches of great height, the middle arch being the greatest, and the 2 of the sides being but small. Under the great and principal arch we made out letters, which we could not copy, owing to their great height above the ground. Behind was a street as wide as the 3 arches, with, here and there, houses of very large size, whose facades of sculpted stone, already blackened with age, alone inscriptions, all open to the sky, decreases of observing, by the regularity and symmetry with their terraces open to the day, without one tile, for the houses had, some of them, burnt floors, and others large flagstones. We went with fear and trembling into some of the houses, and in none did we find vestiges of furniture or movable objects by which or whose use we might guess at the sort of people who had dwelt therein. The houses were all dark in the interior, and hardly could the light of day penetrate, even at its dimmest, and as the vaults gave back the echoes of our speech, the sound of our voices terrified us. We went on into the strange city, and we came to a road of great length and a well set out plaza. Besides, in it and in the middle of the plaza, a column of black stone of extraordinary grandeur, on whose summit was a statue of a man, with a hand on the left hip and right arm outstretched, pointing with the index finger to the North Pole. And each corner of said plaza is an obelisk like those among the Romans or the Egyptians, but now badly damaged and cleft as if by thunderbolts.
Wow.
On the right side of the plaza is a superb building, as it were the principal townhouse of some great lord of the land. There is a great hall at the entrance, but still being awed and afraid, not all of us entered the house, being so many and to form some. And we encountered a massive extraordinary. It was difficult for him to lift. The bats were so numerous that they fluttered in swarms round the faces of our people, and made so much noise that it was astonishing. Above the principal portico of the street is a figure in half relief, cut out of the same stone, and naked from the waist upward, crowned with a laurel, representing a person of youthful years without beard, with a girdle round him, an undergarment, and open at the front of the waist. Underneath the shield of this figure were certain characters now badly defaced by time, but we made out the following, and then they have this. There's a graphic that's representing these characters, and I'll put all these in the show notes. There's a whole list of various interesting characters that were some kind of script that they were seeing in this city.
Let me see them.
That they copied down. So that was marked underneath this statue. Okay. On the left side of the plaza is another totally ruined building, and the vestiges remaining well show that it was a temple, because of the still standing side of its magnificent facade and certain naves of stone standing entire. It covers much ground, and in the ruined halls are seen works of beauty, with other statues of portraits inlaid in the stone, with crosses of various shapes, curves, arches, and many other figures that would take too long to describe here. Beyond this building, a great part of the city lies completely in ruins, and buried under great masses of earth and frightful crevasses in the ground, and in all this expanse of utter desolation there is seen no grass, no herb, no tree or plant produced by nature, but only mountainous heaps of stone, some raw, others worked and carved, whereby we understood because again, among corpses and part of this unhappy and overthrown perhaps by some earthquake. Opposite this plaza, there runs a very swiftly and most deep and wide river with spacious banks that were very pleasing to the eye. It was 11 to 12 fathoms in width, without reckoning the windings, clear and bared at its banks of groves, as of trees and of trunks that are often brought down in floods. We sounded its depths and found the deepest parts to be 15 or 16 fathoms. The country beyond consists wholly of very green and flourishing fields, and so blooming with a variety of flowers that it seemed as if nature, more attentive to these parts, had laid herself out to create the most beautiful gardens of flora. We gazed, too, in admiration and astonishment at certain lakes covered with wild rice plants, from which we profited, and also at the innumerable flocks of geese that bred in these fertile plains, but it would have been difficult to sound their depths with the hand in the absence of a sounding rod. 3 days we journeyed down the river, and we stumbled upon a cataract of such roaring noise and commotion of foaming waters that we supposed the mouths of the much talked of Nile could not have made more trouble or booming, or offered more resistance to our further progress. Afterwards, the river spreads out so much from this cascade that it appears to be a great ocean. It is full of peninsulas, covered with green grass and groves of trees here and there that make pleasing. Here we find, for want of it, the variety of game, many created beings without hunters to hunt or chase them. On the eastern side of the cataract, we found various subterranean hollows and frightful holes, and made trial of their depths with many ropes, but after many attempts we were never able to plumb them. We found besides certain broken stones and, lying on the surface of the ground, thrown down, bars of silver that may have been extracted from the mines abandoned at the time.
Holy shit.
Among these caverns, we saw some covered with a great flagstone, with the following figures cut into it that suggest a great mystery. They are as follows. And I'm showing Kyle the symbols right here that he copied off these doors that were apparently in the mine walls.
That reminds me of Joseph Smith, like going up on the mountain and there's like a stone covering the chamber that has like all that other shit in it.
Yeah. Over the portico of the temple, we saw besides the following forms, and that's what they saw over the temple.
Yeah.
Distant, a cannon shot from the abandoned city is a building like a country house with a frontage of 250 feet. It is approached by a great portico from which a stairway built with a door communicating with the said great chamber. Each room has its water spout or fountain, which water meets in the exterior courtyard. Colonnades in the squared and fashioned by hand, overhung with the characters following. And then there's more characters. Thence, leaving that marvel, we went down to the banks of the river to see whether we could find gold. And without difficulty we saw on the surface of the soil a fine trail promising great riches, as well of gold as of silver. We marveled that this place had been abandoned by those who had formerly inhabited it. For with all of our careful investigations and great diligence, we had met no person in this wilderness who might tell us of this deplorable marvel of an abandoned city, whose ruins, statues, and grandeur attested its former populousness, its wealth, its flourishing in the centuries past, whereas today it is inhabited by swallows, bats, rats, and foxes that, fed upon the innumerable swarms of hen and geese, have become bigger than a pointer dog. The rats have tails so short that they leap like fleas and do not run or walk as they do in other places. At this place, the band separated and one company, joined by others, journeyed forward, and after 9 days' long marching, saw at a distance on the bank of a great bay, into which the river spreads, a canoe with some white persons, with long, flowing black hair, dressed like Europeans.
Yeah, so Fawcett's not a racist.
A gunshot.
Like he's reading this from a French or who?
Yeah, Portuguese. Yeah,
Portuguese. Yeah.
A gunshot fired as a signal for they had escaped. They had shaggy and wild. Their hair is plaited and they wear clothes. One of our company, named Antonio, found in the ruins of a house a piece of gold money of spherical shape, greater than our Brazilian coin of 640 reis. On one side was an image or figure of a kneeling youth, on the other, a bow, a crown, and an arrow, of which coins we doubted not to have found many in the abandoned city, since it was overthrown by an earthquake which gave no time, so sudden was its onset, to take away precious objects, but it needs a very powerful arm to turn over the rubbish accumulated in so many long years, as we saw. This news is sent to you, Your Honor, from the interior of the province of Bahia, and from the rivers of Paraacu and Una, and assuring you that we shall give information to no person whatsoever, for we judge the villages are empty of people and boat owners. But I have given to your honor the mine we have discovered, reminded of the great deal that is owed you. Supposing that from our band one of our company went forth at this time with a different pretense, he may with great harm to your honor abandon his poverty and come to use these great things for his own benefit, taking care to bribe that Indian, therefore so as to spoil his purpose and lead your honor to these great treasures, etc. And that's the end. There's more. No, that's not the end. Sorry. There's more. There's a huge missing section here. Would find in the entrance flagstones, and then he's got some more characters. These strange characters were engraved on the great stones, sealing the vault of treasure that we could not open.
Do you know where they're at right now? Like
They're in Brazil. That's
yeah,
all.
I know, but I mean, like they're following a river. What's the name of that river? They don't name it.
Yeah.
Fawcett read this and then went and did his own exploration.
Yeah. So Fawcett had
because I've got this map like pulled up
right
now that I'm looking at that is trailing Fawcett, and there's like all these rivers he's got named.
Yeah, Fawcett had determined that it was between the Upper Xingu, which is spelled Xingu, and Tapajo rivers, Tapajo.
Okay, here's the Xingu.
The Upper Xingu and Tapajo. I did this on Google Earth. I went to try to trace, to figure out if I could. I mean, you also got to look at mountains. They walked through a pass, some ancient road, the road that they went through the mountains was an ancient one. He was like, this was made by man. It's not a. But they said that the enormous flagstones had been buckled, and then there was this huge boulder that had fallen onto it, and it was like obviously incredibly ancient, but it was a big road cut through the mountains, and the mountains are made of crystals. Like I was like, surely I could find this on Google Earth. It ought to be a sparkly, right? And I couldn't find it.
But they were saying in one spot where there were like no trees or anything.
Yeah, like the area of the city was like just rock and earth, and there was no plants anywhere.
But that was like hundreds of years ago, so
yeah,
there could be
yeah.
full of forests since we've had all the CO2 emissions. You know?
Yeah.
Forests are growing like mad.
It's growing like crazy. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so there's one paragraph left. These strange characters were engraved on the great stones, sealing the vault of treasure that we could not open. This completes the fascinating manuscript by the band of Minas Geracs that inspired many explorers to search for the lost city. Okay, so this is not actually part of the text. Colonel P.H. Fawcett found that 14 out of 24 characters inscribed on the pillars and porticos recorded in the South American manuscript were identical with those that he accidentally discovered in the jungle forest of Ceylon. When he got back
Where's Ceylon? That's also in Brazil, or
Ceylon. Yeah, so I think that's one of the states. Ceylon, maybe is how you say it. The jungle forest of Ceylon. When he got back to civilization, he took a copy of the inscriptions to a learned Sinhalese priest who told him that the writing was a form of Asoka, of the old Asoka Buddhists, in a cipher which only those ancient priests understood. Experts surmise that the bizarre inscriptions record the caching in a time of great dearth or famine of an immense treasure that would be thousands of years old. Fawcett was not the only explorer to act on the information in Manuscript 512. Richard Burton also ventured forth into the Amazon jungle. He wrote a book about his exploration called Explorations of the Highlands of Brazil, with a full account of the gold and diamond mines. And I did talk about Burton last time we talked about this. So that is Manuscript 512, and it is just absolutely fascinating and incredibly annoying because of the worm. Like right when he's about to...
That's the Ashoka...
Oh, yeah. That does look like it.
Script.
That does look like it. Like here, check this out.
That's crazy.
Compare that to those. So we can put these images that we've got here in the show notes. Kyle's got an image of the Ashoka script.
Oh yeah.
So can we translate it?
I can't even do cryptoquip, bro.
It says, no, you can't read this. Or it's like, haha, worm at your dock.
This is another one of those scripts that, like the Rongo stuff, it looks like...
It's little shamans?
Yeah. It looks like some...
Yeah, it looks like, what is it called?
Entoptic freaking patterns and shit.
Or like gestures, right? Like semaphore. It's always a guy going like this.
Yeah.
And like that.
Emoticons or whatever.
Semaphores are, yeah.
Semaphore.
So like it amazes me like that what they're describing there is so enormous. You know, it's so huge. It's just wild that it hasn't been found. The other thing you have to remember is that these guys left from Brazil and were gone for over a decade, right? And they apparently their walk through the city, their walk up into the mountains and then down through the city and down the river valley and, you know, all that shit that they talked about where they passed the mines and the fields and everything. That was at the end of their decade-long hike through the Amazons of Brazil. They were basically trying to find the mines of this other guy. Like, he tells the story at the beginning. Like, there was this guy who had these enormously profitable silver mines and gold mines. And the governor of that area wanted to know where those mines were, and he wanted to take them over, and the dude wouldn't tell him. So he was thrown in prison where he died and never gave out the information of where the mines were. So the governor, all pissed off because now the dude's dead and now he's never going to, he sends this expedition out to find the mines, right? And they don't. They find this city.
But they found like these shafts that they couldn't reach the bottom of. That sounds like a mine.
Right, but yeah. No,
and
those
blocks
were
of silver and shit.
Yes, but so the question is was the guy who was thrown in prison mining those? Because those were the mines of the inhabitants of the city.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
In other words, they found these mines and they're associated with the city itself. That's
right.
where these people were mining, and they're ancient.
They were thinking that this guy had his own mines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, after they find this, the idea is like maybe he didn't. Maybe he just had found this place and he was just showing up with bars of silver that were just laying around on the ground. And maybe that's why he wouldn't tell the governor, because he was like, no, you know, like this is a secret. Like, it's an ancient city, not a mine.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it just makes you want to go down there and find it. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, I could find this. I could totally find this, right? I can't believe that. I mean, you know, Fawcett couldn't find it. Pfft, I could find it.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we'll be back
With more snakes.
And worms. Snakes. Fucking worms.
I can find that shit. Just give me millions of dollars and I'll go down there and find it. Yeah. A couple of bulldozers.
Yeah. A couple of D12s.
Limitless conversation by two limited individuals. Welcome back to Snake Bros podcast.
Snake Bros.
Forever detangentizing the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, where we theorize from
hypothesize, speculate,
pretend armchairs.
Yeah, we don't have any armchairs in here.
Yep.
Can't even say we're armchair researchers.
Yep.
Like stool and cheap swivel chair researchers. I am a swivel chair researcher.
Yep.
Rolly chair.
Okay, so on one of our jobs, where we were way out in the middle of nowhere, we did a lot of exploring off time, and I was hiking on above one of the streams, one of the spring-fed little creeks or whatever, on one side of the hill, and I came upon a place where there was like I'm going along beneath sort of a drop off, like 5 or 6 foot high
straight cliff,
and the hills are kind of naturally terraced.
Yeah.
And I'm going along, and then there's all this old growth cedar, and I start noticing that suddenly the old growth cedar is to the right of me and to the left of me, and everything in between is just like little shit that's growing under the canopy, not very big. And I followed that for a while, and it was about as wide as a road, right? And then I wasn't really sure. I'm like, is this an old road? And I kept going, and
it was kind of in a weird place. You were like,
on
the side of a hill above a creek.
Yeah, it was like, why would there be a road here? I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway, wasn't really sure. Kept kind of following it, and then sure enough, there's this part where there's a ramp that goes up above the next terrace, and there are these big ass boulders that are lining the side of it, and they're all blue. You know, there's nothing white. Yeah, they've been exposed as they are, but it was like the perfect width, and it looked like it was constructed. Yeah. And it went up to the next terrace, and then I get up there, and sure enough, it's the same thing up there. Whereas down below, it turns back into all old growth, and up at the top, it's like the old growth is on the left and right, and everything between is small. And I didn't have a whole lot of time to keep following it, but I was like, I know where it is pretty much, and then tried to go back and find it, and never could find it again.
Never found it again.
So I kind of understand, like, imagining trying to go into the Amazon.
Yeah.
The entire Amazon to find some place that somebody wrote about hundreds of years ago would just be like a daunting task.
Yeah.
I couldn't even find the fucking place that I had already, it's in this relatively small compared to the Amazon area of land, and I knew what stream it was on, and I still couldn't find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had been there before.
Yeah.
Yeah. This would not be like we were going back because we had found it once.
Yeah.
We would be trying to find it. And it is kind of strange that the guy never really tells you where they were. But he probably didn't know.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, how like, I'm trying to tell you where I was when I found the road. And it's like,
I was in the woods.
Yeah, I was like up along the side of the stream. I think I was like a couple of terraces above the water.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We spent a lot of time looking for that road, and I never saw it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to tell someone where you are when you're in the middle of the fucking woods.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I was in the woods.
Yeah, and you have no GPS data because of
Yeah.
the canopy above you. You
Right.
have no cell service. You have, and
Yep.
of course back then they didn't have any of that technology. So
Right. So they could have been doing like sextant dead reckoning or something.
yeah,
Like I guess not. I think they were lost.
but it would be hard if you can't see the sky.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
how the fuck do you do that?
They could see the sky when they were in that mountain pass, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But still, like you could kind of tell that they were at the find of the city, and then everything else past it was sort of the end of their expedition. They had already been out there for a decade. At that point, they were trying to get back, and they were lost.
Right, but another thing is, like, if you're moving east to west, and you're on foot and you're going up and over hills and rocks and boulders and shit, and even if you do have a timepiece that's like telling time, you can't move at a constant speed.
Right.
And it's hard to tell when you're going up a hill how far east or west you're actually going.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to give a good longitude, but you could give it latitude.
Yeah.
Not that would help. Without a longitude, you just have
It's
one
like-
line of the cross. You don't have the other part of the X.
Yeah, so go to the Amazon on this line
It's somewhere on this line
of latitude.
in the Amazon. Yeah, just get on that
and then
line and
if you
walk.
get on that line, you can't stay on it. You have to go around shit.
Not without a D12.
Right, and dynamite.
Yeah. And
Lots of dynamite.
Yeah, when I was looking for this on Google Earth, I thought surely like these crystalline mountains should be, I should be able to look down there and see. I may not see them being crystal, but I should be able to see that there's sparklies in there because I've seen that before.
I mean, they're saying that there's no trees there, but like I was pointing out, that's hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
So, like in our area, I've heard from some of the older people that, way back in their father or grandfather's childhood, the cedar trees weren't nearly, there weren't nearly as many of them.
Right.
It was more oak and pasture and grass and whatever. And the cedars were like all in the ravines and stuff.
Right.
But now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
After 100 years or so, it's like spread all over the fucking place.
Right.
So like
totally
they
different.
could have found this place when, let's say it was 20 years after some major forest fire went through there and just like took out tons of large trees. And so there was no canopy.
Yeah.
And the new growth hadn't happened,
Yeah.
hadn't gotten big yet or whatever.
Yeah.
200
That is
years.
possible because he did talk about how some of the buildings look burnt even though they were made of stone. And that seems weird if it's really ancient, that all signs of burning should have been gone.
Yeah, unless it was the forest that burned around it.
Around it and left soot everywhere, yeah.
But still, like, 300 years later, or 200 or 300 years later, you're looking at Google Earth and it's just all forest. And there's no...
Well, and the worms ate the best pyramids. Like, I'm like, these obelisks in this big square, like if there was this enormous town square with flagstones,
yeah, but remember that shit in Guatemala? Like, the tree, like, there's this freaking massive pyramid type structure thing sitting, but
it looks like a hill and it's underneath the trees.
But the trees are so freaking huge and their canopy reaches way out and just completely covers it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no looking at it from Google Earth.
Yeah.
It's just...
You need LiDAR.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can see through the trees.
Yeah, until they come out with Google LiDAR.
Yeah, Google LiDAR. That would be great. Man.
Lasers from space.
That's right. Mapping the planet from space with lasers.
That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that's just like what could that have been? Like, if you're just thinking like, okay, so let's just assume that for the sake of discussion that the city was real. This is a real place that this guy found. We're talking about advanced. This is advanced, He thought, he said that when they were up on the mountain pass and they were looking down at it, they thought, wow, we're back at, this is one of the capital cities of Brazil. They thought they were back at civilization.
Yeah.
So like, and the size of the buildings they were describing, they're enormous. I mean, 250 feet across, a stone building, like that's pretty big for a single house. That's not a hut, sweet hut.
Yeah. Hut, sweet hut. But I mean, it doesn't seem far-fetched to me that it would be, something along the same timeline as
like Tiwanaku.
All the stuff on the eastern coast.
Yeah.
Or wait, is it the west coast? The west
in
coast.
Peru.
Yeah. Going all the way up,
Yeah.
Over there, like there's that, is it the Andes and all that stuff that's like pushed way up those big plateaus that are just way, way up there, high elevation. So there's no trees. So it's easy to see all that shit.
Yeah. Yep.
And even, like the Nazca lines, like
on that plateau,
somebody's flying over it and they're like, whoa, look at that. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you could fly low over any area in that region and see those structures because they're just sitting up there. There's it's above the tree line. It's like desert almost.
Yeah, that's true. It is desert. Yeah.
Where in the Amazon, it's like, let's say like Pumapunku, Tiwanaku, all that shit, Cusco, Sacsayhuaman.
Yeah.
They're all let's say they were all from the same time period, like
roughly
10,000 years ago or whatever.
If they were down
the Amazon basin could have been totally different. It could have been free of all that crazy rainforest shit, just depending on the climate.
Yeah. And like there's lots of evidence now that it was because, like they keep clear cutting large swaths of the Amazon. And it's annoying the environmentalists because, they like to say that the Amazon is the lungs of the planet and that by clear cutting it, we're destroying the planet.
Wrong. The ocean is the lungs of the planet.
Right. The ocean algae are the lungs of the planet. They make 99% of the oxygen. And most of the live things on the planet don't breathe oxygen, so they don't need those lungs.
And it's like they're breathing CO2, the ocean algae, but they're also making shitloads of it.
Right. Yes, they are making shitloads
because they're taking it all in and storing it.
Yeah. And then dying and falling down to
dying and then methane gas.
Yeah. That's right. They actually are a big reason why the CO2 gets stashed in the sediment.
Yeah.
Like there's this misnomer that there's a carbon cycle. There kind of is, but that's the small part of what's really going on with carbon on this planet. Most of it comes through once and gets stashed into the sediment.
I've got this map or just the satellite image of
South
America, and it's like the western strip where from north to south, where we find all these badass ancient sites.
Yeah, it's clear.
It's like
it's a
desert.
Yeah.
And it's just this tiny strip that runs north to south, and all of the rest of South America is just
Amazon
freaking
basin. Yeah.
green.
Yeah. Dark green down low. Yeah. So the Amazon basin, like, so you could see the Andes there, that's the mountain chain that runs along that ridge. It just drops off like 10,000 feet into that Amazon basin right there. It just fucking falls down into the jungle. There's just this wall. They may have been near that wall. You know, I mean, I know that's pretty far from Brazil, way over there, but that's what I was thinking when I was looking through this. I was like, they found a pass, an ancient pass up into the Andes Mountains. He was calling them the Cordilleras, but I don't know. But anyway, they're clear cutting the Amazon, which pisses off these environmentalists because it belongs to the planet. But they keep finding these massive earthworks. Once they've clear cut, so they've come through with the biggest machines they can find and the largest amount of dynamite. You know, I've read a lot of people down there. They're like, once you live in the jungle, all you want to do is find the hugest piece of machinery you can and drive it into the jungle. That's right, and drive it into the jungle and flatten it. So they're doing that, and they're doing it because they're trying to make farms, right? Like the jungle is a very inhospitable place for farms, and actually, the jungle is so absorbent that the soil itself has been utterly depleted below it, right? So once you clear cut the jungle, you've got to wait for a while for the soil to kind of replenish itself so that you can grow anything there, because the trees are just like, you know, and all the nutrients are gone. But what's interesting is they're clear cutting these huge swaths of the Amazon. Well, relatively huge. They're not, you can't even see them on maps, but like if you're looking at it, it's like, well, they've cleared all these like thousands of acres, and you look and you're like, oh, you mean that little tiny dot inside of that enormous green swath? Yeah. But they find these massive earthworks, like so big circular berms, you know, huge squares basically. So like a big berm that's a square, you know, like a and these are all under the jungle. It's like once they've clear cut all the trees and pulled all the roots and everything, the stumps out, they find these earthworks, which implies what you just said, that there was a time when the jungle wasn't there and people were building massive things there that are completely gone now because the jungle has just destroyed them. But all that's left is like not even the foundations, but what's left of the pad that they made to put the foundation on.
Dude, it's crazy how well just the slightest bit of vegetation can camouflage some subtle earthworks like that. For example, we worked on this property that had two springs that converged into one at the edge of the property, and there's like two hills on either side after the springs merged together. And I had found arrowheads around that area, like you know, quite a few, and was looking for an Indian mound. And just for years I was looking for Indian mounds. I'm like, I know they're here. Can't find them. And both of the hilltops on either side of the stream were cleared.
Yeah.
But I could not find the Indian mound at all. And then we did a controlled burn
of the grass,
of all the grass pastures on the property. And we burned all the grass, and I'm like walking around on these two hilltops where we were burning the grass and everything, and still didn't see shit. And then it rained, like we leave, and then it rains like, you know, within a week or something. And I come back and I go up on the hilltops. Now that all the grass is burned and all the ashes are gone, I see two freaking massive Indian mounds right there where I'd been walking over them all this time and never seen them.
Yep.
But they were clear as day. When the grass was gone, I was just like, holy shit, there's a freaking mound right there.
Right. And the grass that we burned was, you know, on average 1.5 feet, 2 feet high.
Right.
And thick.
But the roots of that grass like grow over top.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't even feel the rocks under your feet.
Right. Because the root balls of the grass were really thick too. Yeah. So once we had burned it down to the dirt, and then the ash was washed away, you could totally see these two mounds like right there.
So I'm not advocating burning down the Amazon, but we should burn it down.
We should probably burn it down. Like, look, we got to find this ancient shit.
Yeah, we need to know.
I mean,
what's going on?
We have to burn this. It's clear that the jungle, like, took over from us. Right. So we were there first. We can burn it down.
Yeah, the jungle is not indigenous.
That's right.
We are.
We were indigenous. Like, we dig beneath the jungle and find us. So we need to burn it down. All of it.
Yeah. So what's the, I remember in I can't remember if it's Magicians of the Gods or Fingerprints of the Gods, but he talks about Lake Titicaca.
Yeah.
And how there's like this whole thing where everybody's like, oh, this city is like only this old, yet there's like a high water mark on the lake.
That's Tiwanaku, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the high water mark is tilted.
Yeah, 30 degrees. Like you can see that the lake used to be like this and now it's like that or whatever. And like that also goes together with the weird information about Titicaca that it's the only place in the world where there is a quote unquote freshwater seahorse animal. Nowhere else is there anything like that. And there's actually a lot of other marine analog life inside the lake, which really implies that
there's like a freshwater shrimp and all that other shit.
It kind of implies that it's like a tidal wave puddle.
Yeah.
Like, the ocean actually erupted, as in IRRU, erupted, massive wave washes over the area and like leaves this enormous puddle of salt water with all this life in it. But then over time, because since it's now no longer the ocean, which has a constant source of salts from all the outflows of rivers, from all the continents, that's where the salt from the ocean comes from. These rivers are like eroding salts away from the minerals as they flow, and they dump into the ocean and pour all this constant salt in there.
And then why is it that when you're at the mouth of a river at the ocean, or not the mouth, but like where the river goes into the ocean, the river's fresh,
right?
The rivers salt.
The rivers are. That
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the rivers are fresh, but the ocean is the last basin. So
right, so it's collecting all the salt,
and then it's evaporating.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so over time the rivers are constantly adding the salt content of the ocean. So right, they're fresh, sort of. They're a brine, but they're real low. But they're constantly dumping in, and once it's in the ocean, that's it. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, but. So the same thing happens if you put seawater into a big pool and then you've disconnected it from the ocean. Over time, that salt will like.
Well, it's going to get rainfall, which is fresh as well.
Yeah, but the salt will precipitate out of the ocean and form on the floor or whatever, and join the minerals down there, and eventually it will become fresh water, which it is now. But yeah, so and it looks like it's been drying up for 10,000 years, really, because you see all these shorelines and some of them were tilted in different ways. Like it's been drying up over time. It's getting smaller and smaller. Like Titicaca used to be right at Tiwanaku.
But are all the buildings tilted?
The buildings?
Yeah.
Well, like Tiwanaku, you can't even tell because it's been... All the enormous blocks have been thrown like some giant baby came through there and kicked everything down. So they probably were.
Ugh, giant baby.
Yeah, it's a bad image.
Okay, so because that was one thing that I wasn't really getting. It's like
how could it be tilted?
Here's this high water mark that's tilted, and this ancient city is supposed to be where that high water mark was because it was like the city has like docks and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering like. Well, but is everything in the city tilted?
Well, when you look at it now, it doesn't look tilted, but everything now is not as it was when they found it. Everybody's been dragging blocks around and trying to build it back up, right? So it's flat now, but
damn it.
Yeah, it's not in situ. Like, but what's interesting is like they've been digging on it recently, like after the ancient alien stuff that visited that site so often, Peru and Brazil. Is it Brazil that's next to it? It's Peru and. I think it's Brazil, but they basically realized, okay, so we got a good tourist trap here. Okay. So their idea immediately is the wrong one. Let's go out there and build it, right? Rebuild it. I'm like, that's not what tourists want, dude. They want to see the blocks stuck out of the mud, and they don't want to see what you think the city used to look like because you're going to get it wrong. Right. Yeah. But anyway, their idea is like, well, we should go out there and dig it up. And so they have been doing some good work, and there's pictures now that you can find online where they've been digging these trenches, which archaeologists will make these long grids of trenches, right? Because they're looking for the rest of it. Obviously, most of it is not there. And what you see is these trenches, they're digging, and they find a stone block, and they leave it where
it's sitting, but they dig around it.
Yeah, they dig around it. So like the block is all tilted and it's got a little pedestal of mud still holding it up. Well, it's dried out now, but so you get the idea. You see all these blocks that are all in these tilted positions, and held up by mud or whatever, and you start to see the structure not of the destruction, right?
Right.
That this enormous wave came through, and the bottom of the wave was carrying tons of sediment and mud, and just like, and like it was enough force to completely destroy the city, and then it leaves all these heavy blocks down at the bottom of the wave part stuck in the mud in these various attitudes.
Dude, I wonder if the high water mark that's tilted. Oh no, that wasn't making
What's
sense.
weird is that they're trying to say that the source of the wave was the lake.
Right.
I'm just like, I think that was the second one. Like,
coming back.
It comes from the ocean and it goes all the way up, and then it comes back across. And
But they think it's from the lake because the ocean would have to go so high.
10,000. Yeah, because
yeah.
Titicaca is at 11,000 something feet. It's above the tree line.
It's freaking
I mean, you
crazy,
can't.
dude.
That's another thing about Tiwanaku is that like it's hard to explain as a city because at 11,000 something feet,
You can't grow anything.
you can't grow any food there.
Yeah.
Like none of our crops would work at that level. Now the locals, the Aymara people that are there, they do have certain really hardy grasses, grains, and shit that they can grow, but those aren't enough to feed a city of that size of all the people that you need, and especially not the workforce that would build that place.
But if it was, say, before the end of the last ice age, and there's glaciers everywhere, and it's just a totally different climate,
Yeah, but it's weird though because if you just assume into the last ice age and you don't drastically change the land, then that would put it even higher above sea level because the sea level is so much farther down during the ice age. It would be 400 feet further down below where it is now. That would be even higher in elevation and less air, and so I think
Good point.
I think the end of the ice age is what changed it. But what happened is like the Andes uplifted drastically, okay, and brought it to that height, and that's part of what threw blocks everywhere, right? There was this enormous like uplift.
Yeah.
Before that, it may have been down a lot closer. Maybe it have been at sea level, or a lot closer at least. But so I told you that I got this Ivan T. Sanderson book, right? This guy who's like a great scientist who he hates the whole paradigm thing. He's like, this is bullshit. Like what I've learned about science is we fucking know almost nothing, and all these guys in these universities, they all think they know everything, and this is bullshit, right? He gives all this data in here about enormous tidal waves caused by impacts, and I thought I had researched this thoroughly, but like the shit that he's saying, I'm like, holy crap! Like he talks about in New Jersey and Connecticut and up in that area, there's this enormous pine barren area, okay, and I knew about the pine barrens, but he was like. He had some friends, and he was like, "These are younger people or whatever, but they're very observant and like, he's like, I think they're really smart." But they went on a rafting or canoeing or whatever trip through this river, the Pine Barrens, and they took all these photographs and they showed me a bunch of them, and they were saying, "What is this?" And he's like, "I'm looking at it, and it's just hundreds of thousands of stumps, cedar stumps." Of trees that were 6 feet across that have been broken off at the stump level. Okay. Right. He's like, what could cause that? Like what?
But they're fossil. They're like.
No, they're like, he says that like during extreme periods, like periods of very low water, like they'll start to stick up out of the water.
Right. But
So
they're still wooden?
Yeah. They're still in the,
So they're not like petrified or anything.
no, not, yeah. But they're preserved. They're cedar. Like they last forever, especially if you put them down in the,
Heartwood, yeah.
Yeah.
The heartwood.
So he's saying they're like, the stumps are like 6 feet across. These are enormous trees. But something has snapped them off almost at, down by the roots part. So it's like at the thickest part, something broke these trees off near ground level. And they're really thick, like 6 feet of cedar tree is going to be a really hard thing to break. And he goes through all these examples of like, so, people have given explanations like, oh, well, it was hurricanes and like he's like, okay, so the strongest hurricane we know of is like had winds going this fast and like gusts that were probably up to 250 miles an hour, and it was running right through this area where it was being channeled, and there are all these enormous old growth trees there, and none of them even fell. Okay, they did not fall. They broke branches and stuff like that, but they didn't not fall over, much less break off at the stump level.
Yeah.
Right. So he goes through all that, and he basically ends up saying, so the only thing that can really cause this is an impact of something in the ocean nearby that would send an enormous tidal wave inland, right?
Yeah.
Carrying all this crap near the bottom where the trees are going to be hit by it. And he went to talk to one of his one of his friends who's a scientist or whatever who studies this kind of stuff, like he studies deep ocean impact things or whatever, and that guy straight up tells him like, yeah, so the impact of an asteroid body coming in, it's 18,000 kilometers, an hour, like they would be, like that's not a comet. Those are way faster. So an asteroid coming in at 18,000, 20,000 kilometers an hour, that was like, I think he said a mile across, or kilometer across, whatever. If it hit out here in this deep part of the Atlantic, it would make tidal waves that are 20,000 feet.
Jesus.
The initial wave, when it first hit, that first wave is going to be 20,000 feet tall. He said by the time it reaches land, it's going to be a lot smaller, like 2,000 feet. I'm like, okay, that's still really huge. 2,000 feet. So yeah, Ivan's like, yeah, so that would break all these trees off. And what was interesting is he was also pointing out, so in this same area, there is a singular kind of industry for roof shingles that they dig out of the ground, right? He's like, it's weird, like they mine these shingles. But when you look at them, they're not slate, they look like wood, but they're and so he was like, I went to find out where are they getting these things, because I know they're digging them out of the ground. And he says they're getting them from an enormous deposit of humongous cedar logs that have been shoved into the ground and just deposited there, and they've been petrified, right? And so now they mine them by you get this log or whatever, and you can kind of split it and get this perfect petrified wood shingle out from the tree, and they've been roofing their houses with them for forever.
Holy shit.
Okay.
That's a kick-ass roof.
Yeah. Fucking petrified cedar shingles.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he was like, so these are probably the trunks that came from the stumps that we're looking at in the Pine Barrens. So the Pine Barren stumps are still above ground, still in this freshwater. Yeah, still in this freshwater, and they're not petrified, but the trunks are down. They've actually been shoved underground, like they've been jammed way down. He's like, if you dig down below some of the stumps, you find the trunks down there below them, right? So he was like, basically, this is the idea. This wave comes by, breaks all those trees off, and now they're in the bottom of the wave, right? So that denudes them of bark and rips all their branches off, just so you just have these trunks,
Yeah.
And they're being rolled. Now they won't break or whatever, because they can roll, but they're rubbing against each other and rolling and whatever, and it pushes them all the way to the extent that the wave goes to. It hits the what is it called? The Appalachians. It's the Appalachian Mountains, rolls them up the mountainside, and then rolls them back down and drags them all the way back out towards the ocean. But once it reaches the area where all the stumps are, right, it just starts jamming them down underground, and they get tangled up in the stumps or wherever, and they get pushed underneath it into the mud. And that's where they all are, is down into the mud under all those stumps and stuff like that. And they've been mining them for shingles for, I was just like,
crazy, dude.
Yeah, so that story was crazy and badass, but also the 2,000 feet. I mean, the initial 20,000 foot wave went from an impact of a big one. That's a big wave.
Yeah.
20,000. They were saying, I had read before that geologists saying the initial wave will be taller than the ocean is itself. The waves will be taller than the depth of the ocean.
Right.
So when he was saying so if it impacts at an area where it's 2 miles deep, the initial wave will be taller than the ocean is deep. I'm like, wow, that's over 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
That's really, really tall. But yeah, but he basically says that explains a lot of weird geology all along the East Coast of the entire United States. That there's just very strange, the whole thing with whales up in the mountains. They when people were coming here, and they're up in Vermont, way up in the mountains, and they find fossilized whale from the recent era. It's not an ancient fossilized whale; it's from the Pleistocene.
Yeah.
And then there's all the whales that were in the
So you think those. They find those massive oyster shells and shit up at the very, very tops of these mountain tops.
Yeah.
They're not so much there's sediment there.
Yeah.
But it's also, do you think it's thrown up there by massive tidal waves as opposed to that used to be the bottom of the ocean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably both, but I think that for the most part, okay, first of all, you have to.
Because they're well, the ocean wasn't that high. That was pushed up.
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, okay, but
So two things I think is happening there where they're wrong. One is that they think mountains are incredibly old. I don't anymore. I think that they're relatively new. Okay.
yeah, or at least some of them.
Yeah. These catastrophes shape the planet very quickly, and then all the shaping stops except for small stuff for 10,000 years, and then another massive reshaping happens, and all these mountains fall and disappear and get subducted, and other ones appear and everything, and then it stops and freezes, and then there's uniformitarianism for 10,000 years, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that most mountain chains, some of them may not be, but most mountain chains are relatively new. Like, and there have been those erosion studies where they try to figure out, so like, what we know these rates of erosion that these mountains undergo. Yeah, we're 2 minutes over, so we'll stop here in a bit. But they know that you can study the rates of erosion that the mountains undergo based on how much stuff is coming off them from the rivers. And you could sort of calculate the mass of the mountain. And like, so if this is the amount of outflow, how long would it take before these mountains are gone? And it's not very long. It's not long at all, right? And they found out that the rate that they think mountains grow is too slow
fast enough
to push them up against the rate of erosion. So mountains would not exist at all if uniformitarians were correct. It would just be flat, right? So those mountains are new and young, and they have to be because, look at the Rockies. They're still sharp.
Yeah.
They obviously haven't been there long enough to get all their jagged edges sort of worn smooth, right? They're
Right.
fucking sharp and stuff. Like those are young mountains. So I think that yes, most of the sediments up in the high mountains are from enormous waves because those mountains were never underwater because when last time this area was underwater, which it probably was, there weren't those mountains here because they just got made. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. All right, so we'll take a break with that and come back for the second hour. Snakes! Snake Bros.
Just to be someone, yeah, to be someone, to be someone, yeah, someone.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Half our pyramids tied behind our backs just to make it square. It is Brothers of the Serpent podcast for the second hour. We are discussing gigantic tidal waves and weird ancient lost cities in the Amazon, and we should burn it all down.
Yep. Set it on fire.
That's right. Set it on fire, burn it down. All you are is that little black stuff right on the edge of the fire, and you have just long enough to say, wait, why am I not burning? And then you will be. Because everything that is in the universe that is important is either exploding or on fire.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was mentioning the whales, and like I've always been fascinated by this little fact that in the southern states, like think the line of states between Texas and Georgia, right? All the farmland there, just all that flat farmland, all the rich, all the soil, the farmers there kept running into whale bones with their plows. And there were so many whale bones that they built fences out of the ribs of the whale bones.
Man, I bet those are some badass looking fences.
Yeah, but they were badass too. But think about that. There were so many of the whale bones like in the fields out there that they had to fucking, and piling them up and shit, and they started building fences out of them like they do with the cedar out here.
Yeah. You roll up to that fence and you're like, I don't think we should cross this.
Yes. That looks spiked and bones. Obviously, somebody really evil lives on the other side of that fence.
That's right. Throw something over it and run.
Right. That's right. Set it on fire and run. So kind of keeping on with this like ancient weird stuff, like anomalous things. I've got this same list, and I've read from it before. I read from the artifacts, the out of place artifacts, and I read from the out of place bones. But this is in the middle of the list, and I couldn't find it before when I was reading this. But this is the out of place footprints, right? There's lots of great fossilized footprints in this list here. And interestingly enough, this is another interest of mine, like names that are appropriate, right, for the people's jobs. It starts with one of those guys. In 1884, Earl Flint, a geologist, representing the Peabody Museum and Harvard University, discovered in a rock quarry near Managua, Nicaragua, on the shores of Lake Gilva, a layer containing fossilized human tracks, 16 to 24 feet below the surface. Flint described the tracks in these words written in 1884. The footprints are from 1/2 to 3 inches in depth, and none exceed 18 inches. Some of the impressions are nearly closed, the soft surface falling back into the impression, and a crevice about 2 inches in width is all one sees. And my first glance at some parallel to one less deep gave me an idea that the owner of the latter was using a stave to assist him in walking. In some, the substance flowed outward, leaving a ridge around it. Seen in one secured for the museum, the stride is variable, owing to the size of the person and the changing nature of the surface passed over. The longest one uncovered was 17 inches, length of foot was 10 inches, and width 4 inches. Feet arched, steps in a right line, measured from center of heel to center of great toe over 3 steps. The people making them were going both ways in a direction consonant to that of the present lake shore, east and west, more or less. Among these and others in nearby sites, Flint found examples of both barefoot and well-defined sandaled foot impressions. All were geologically dated as being over 200,000 years of age. Supposedly, at this remote time, man was nothing more than a naked, hairy creature, capable of chipping a few flints and just beginning to overcome his fear of fire.
And making some flops.
That's right. In sharp contrast, the Nicaragua find reveals the intelligent use of walking sticks, the wearing of sandals that appear to have been best designed for both comfort and protection. We are confronted here with not just the footprint of a half-beast, but rather the footprint of a civilized being.
Obviously, the next step after butt flaps is foot flops.
That's right. Butt flaps and flip flops.
Foot flops.
Foot flops. Butt flops and foot flaps. 2 years earlier, in the summer of 1882, inmates working in the quarry at the state prison near Carson City, Nevada, brought to light a layer of sandstone covered with fossilized animal tracks, among them a number having belonged to the extinct mammoth. What caused considerable scientific consternation, however, was the fact that several human tracks were also found. The tracks were in 6 series, each with alternate right and left tracks. The stride was from 2.5 to over 3 feet, and the individual prints were from 18 to 20 inches in length. Giants.
Shaq.
Shaq! The straddle, the distance between the lines of left and right prints, was 18 to 19 inches. Sorry about that.
Whoops.
Geologist Joseph Leconte read a paper on the investigation done in the Carson City tracks to the California Academy of Science on August 27th, 1882, and attempted to explain them as the marks left by an extinct giant sloth that lived during the late Pliocene, over 2 million years ago. But sloths, in order to walk upright on only 2 feet, as the fossil tracks indicate, would have had to use their tails as a balance, and there were no tail grooves in the sandstone. Not only this, but a comparison between the Carson City tracks and known sloth impressions showed several dissimilarities. The sloth's prints have marked toe protuberances as well as definite claw marks. The Carson City tracks have neither. The Carson City tracks, in fact, showed signs that their maker had worn some type of sandal or foot protection, very definitely not the habit of an animal. The May 25th, 1969 issue of the Tulsa Sunday World carried the story of a curious fossil find made on the hilltop overlooking the eastern part of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The find was made by Troy Johnson, a field geologist of 13 years' experience, and though he showed plaster casts of his discovery to several experts, each and every one refused to accept it or its implications. Johnson had unearthed a sandstone strata filled with fossil tracks, many 5-toed and distinctly human. The fact that a number of examples of these were overlaid by the tracks of now extinct creatures demonstrated that the man tracks could not have been of recent origin, but dated back to between 3 and 5 million years.
Yeah, if the dating of those extinct creatures is correct.
Right.
Or the geological period is correct.
Right. No matter how you look at it, though, they're wrong, which right. They can't take it. One remarkable man track was reported in the Soviet journal number 8, 1961. In 1959, a joint Russian-Chinese paleontological expedition under the direction of Dr. Chu Ming Chen. His name should have been, let's see.
Too many chins is basically...
Chu Ming Chen.
Yeah, too many chins.
It should be Chu Walk Win. Right? These footprints. Chu Walk Win. Discovered in the Gobi Desert of Central Asia, the fossilized print of a shoe with a ribbed sole. The find appears in sandstone dated at 15 million years. Members of the expedition who carefully examined the shoe print were quick to recognize that it was not the footprint of any animal, for the ribbing was too straight and regular to be of natural origin. Even more recent examples of foot and shoe prints were brought to light in the 1970s in the Carrizo Valley in northwest Oklahoma. The prints occur in both the Morrison Formation and the Dakota Sandstone, over 100 million years old. The barefoot marks are somewhat eroded, but show evidence of definite pressure ridges. Some are in very close proximity to dinosaur tracks. The shoe prints are more clearly defined and reveal their wearers to have been above normal size, with the imprints averaging 20 inches long and 8 inches across the ball of the foot.
Jeez.
Probably the most publicized man tracks.
Snowshoes.
Yeah, snowshoes. Probably the most publicized man tracks are those found along the Biloxi River near Glen Rose, Texas. They were first observed in 1908, after a flood washed away a portion of shore ledging, exposing geologic levels of the Glen Rose Formation, the Biloxi Formation, and the Twin Mountain Formation of the Trinity Group, all dated to the early Cretaceous, between 120 and 130 million years. Interestingly, these same rock types occur at Bandera, not far from San Antonio, and there, too, human prints have been found and documented. On the Biloxi, serious research into the mystery of the fossil prints did not begin until 1938, when Roland T. Bird of the Department of Vertebrate Paleontology of the American Museum of Natural History in New York removed a trail of brontosaurus tracks that were alongside a series of what his eyes beheld with the official position, but admitted in the May 1939 issue of Natural History, no man ever existed in the age of reptiles, although those tracks are perfect in every detail. Like, that is just, you know, the denial there. Like, look, no man ever existed in the age of reptiles, although those footprints over there are perfect in every detail to be a man track. But they're not, because they can't be.
Right.
Bird could only conclude that the prints he saw were those of some extinct ape. But this explanation was most unsatisfactory, since according to evolutionary theory, apes were not to appear for another 100 million years after the epoch of the Brontosaurus, and mammals were not to appear for a long time after that, too. The Biloxi site became a tourist attraction, and during the Depression, the locals began excavating both dinosaur and man prints and selling them for souvenirs. Some of the specimens sold were really hand-carved by the more unscrupulous opportunists, and unfortunately, in later years, conservative scholars were quick to point to these few examples of fakery as the answer to all the tracks discovered. But on-the-spot diggings by geologists and paleontologists have uncovered many new prints found in situ that could not have been hoaxes, for they were discovered deep within the rock layers, and at times several feet back into the Biloxi banks where no fabrication could possibly be made. The sum total of finds along the Biloxi reveal quite a mixture of man and animal types having lived all at the same time. There are heavy brontosaur tracks, the talon marks of the feared Tyrannosaurus rex, three-toed spores of other dinosaurs, and the imprint of a saber-toothed tiger, which was supposed to have lived only a few million years ago, not in the area of giant lizards. As for the human prints, many are found in series popping out of the Biloxi banks in a very natural stride and then wading into the riverbed. A good number of the prints are bare, with the large toe particularly clearly distinguishable. Others show signs of the maker's feet having worn some form of foot covering like a moccasin or a thin sandal. In one instance, in fact, the fossil print is so well preserved that the impression of the lacing on the moccasin is still visible. Some human tracks are of men of modern stature with shoe sizes from 7 to 13. Others are of children, whose prints are both proportionally smaller and shallower. Several more, however, are 1 to 6 inches, with not a few of men of 21 and 1/2 inch feet and a 7-foot stride. Giants in the true sense of the word.
Hell yeah. I have to know
Where are these?
where are the Glen Rose, like where's the Glen Rose formations in Bandera? Because like I want to go there.
Yeah.
Like,
It's,
now.
yeah.
Like right now.
Like right now. Let's go right now. And whatever's around it, we'll burn it down, and then we'll find whatever's there. The most remarkable fact of all, however, is that these prints are in the same layer as dinosaur tracks. And in a few instances, the humans and dinosaur prints cross each other, showing that the two had been contemporary when the rock had been mud. The significance of these examples was noted by Dr. A.E. Wilder Smith of the University of Illinois. One authentic man track found in the same stratum as one authentic brontosaurus track throws out 100 years of evolutionary teachings. It is sufficient to bring the whole Darwinistic theory down and revolutionize all biology today, which is why they won't let it happen.
Yeah.
But the out-of-place footprints go back even further in geological time. The American Anthropologist, Volume 9, 1896, page 66, describes the finding of a perfect human imprint in stone about 4 miles north of Parkersburg, on the West Virginia side of the Ohio River. The track was 14 and 1/2 inches long and was found embedded in a large stone. Though few specifics were given, one expert has calculated from the type of rock depicted and its position on the river's edge that the track must be at least 150 million years old, according to modern geological dating. In the late 1970s, Dr. Rex Gilroy, director of the Mount York Natural History Museum of Australia, discovered a giant impress on Mount Victoria. One tentative estimate puts the track at 200 million years of age. I've seen a picture of that thing. If it's a real footprint, it's enormous. I mean, it's huge. It's the size of my legs.
Damn.
Yeah. So one of the most remarkable finds was found in Fisher Canyon, Pershing County, Nevada, on January 25th, 1927. An amateur geologist named Albert E. Knapp was descending a small hill in the canyon when he spotted the fossil laying topside among a pile of loose rocks. He picked up the find and took it home with him. Upon closer examination, Knapp was astounded to discover it is a layer from the heel of a shoe, which had been pulled up from the balance of the heel by suction, the rock being in a plastic state at the time. The shoe print was in a marvelous state of preservation. The edges of the heel were smooth and rounded off as if cut, and its right side appeared more worn than the left, suggesting that it had been worn on the right foot. But what Knapp found really amazing was that the rock in which the heel mark was made was Triassic limestone, 225 million years old, which runs in a belt through the canyon hills he had been exploring. The rock was later examined by an expert geologist at the Rockefeller Foundation who confirmed Knapp's analysis. The presence of minute crystals of sulfide of mercury throughout the spaces in the fossil also testified to it being of great antiquity. The real surprise about the age-old heel imprint, however, did not come until microphotographs revealed that the leather had been stitched by a double row of stitches.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, the twists of the threads are very discernible. One line follows along the heel's outer edge, and the second line paralleled the first precisely, inwards by 1/3 of an inch. What baffled investigators was the fact that this double stitching had been done with thread much smaller and more refined in workmanship than that used by shoemakers even in 1927, when the fossil print was discovered. Like, in other words, it's more advanced than the threads used by the people that were alive at the time of the discovery of the fossil, so it can't be a hoax by those people at that time.
Yeah.
Unless it was a breakaway civilization making the hoax, right? As Mr. Samuel Hubbard, honorary curator of archaeology of the Oakland Museum in California, commented, "There are whole races of primitive men on Earth today utterly incapable of sewing that moccasin. What becomes of the Darwinian theory in the face of this evidence that there were intelligent men on Earth millions of years before apes were supposed to have evolved? I'll tell you what it becomes of it. It gets thrown in the dustbin of history." Like people like to say, your Atlantis theories have been thrown in the dustbin of history. No, your evolution one has been. In 1885, Professor J.F. Brown of Berea College, Kentucky, was called upon to examine a puzzling find made 16 miles east of the town of Berea on Big Hill in Rockcastle County, one of the spurs of the Cumberland Plateau. Near the summit, an old wagon trail cut through a stratum of carboniferous limestone, and removal of earth to widen the trail into a road had exposed a new section of this stratum. As E.A. Allen reported in the American Antiquarian, Volume 7, page 39, preserved in the layer were the fossilized impressions of several creatures. What mystified those who witnessed the remains was that among these tracks were two well-preserved prints of a human being. They were described as good-sized, toes well spread, and very distinctly marked. It was not until 1930 that further and more detailed investigations were performed, this time by Dr. Wilbur Greeley Burroughs, head of the geology department at Berea College. Dr. Burroughs discovered a total of 12 9.5-inch man tracks and portions of others, and confirmed that they had indeed been impressed upon gray Pottsville sandstone dating from the Upper Pennsylvania period, well over 300 million years old. Several geologists and paleontologists of the conservative school, in search of a face-saving explanation, declared the tracks not to be of human origin, but the marks of some as yet unknown species of amphibian. Dr. Burroughs' research, however, proved otherwise. He described the configuration of the tracks in this way, as quoted in the Louisville Courier Journal, May 24th, 1953. Of these, two pairs show the left foot advanced relative to the right. The position of the feet is the same as that of a person. The distance from heel to heel is 18 inches. One pair shows the feet parallel to each other, the distance between the feet being the same as that of a normal human being. Dr. Burroughs concluded that the prints were made by a creature that was exclusively bipedal. Most amphibians and reptiles are quadrupeds. There were no foreleg prints, and those that have been known to walk upright on their hind legs always do so with the tail acting as a tripod to give balance. As Dr. Burroughs carefully noted, nowhere were the signs of belly or tail marks in the examined stratum. Furthermore, Dr. Burroughs and several of his colleagues performed a microscopic analysis of the man tracks, and based upon the grain count, established that, quote, the sand grains within each track are closer together than the grains immediately outside the tracks and elsewhere on the rock for the same kind and same combination of grains due to the pressure of the creature's foot. The creature, they found, had exerted a weight pressure a little above that of a modern man. As the Science newsletter of October 29th, 1939 commented, no amphibian or reptile that size has been discovered in the fossil record that walked upright in the Pennsylvanian era. Finally, the clear impressions showing 5 toes, ball, and heel are totally unrelated to an amphibian's or reptile's physical makeup. Only man has a foot like that. Albert G. Ingalls, writing in the Scientific American January 1940, declared, if man existed as far back as in the Carboniferous period in any shape, then the whole science of geology is so completely wrong that all geologists should resign their jobs and take up truck driving.
Or some other sciences are wrong.
Right. Or you guys should just admit you're wrong and do what science is supposed to and fix it.
Yeah.
Science isn't about being right, damn it. It's about being wrong and figuring out where you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, so that's wrong. But not assuming that then you're right, because you're still wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's probably, I mean, there's more, but I think that's enough of that. There's quite a few more footprints and stuff in here. Going 345 million years.
Yeah, so there was another story that I was just reminded of, or I just remembered. And I don't remember the details, of course, but it was basically they found a jawbone with teeth that was Homo sape.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
That was like, that once again is throwing the out of Africa theory way further back.
Oh, yeah.
That was just recently, like last week, I think.
It's either way further back or like it's not out of Africa anymore, or is that you're talking about?
This is another one that's having to push it further back because it wasn't in Africa,
Okay.
or it
Yeah,
might have been in Africa, but it was beyond the zone where they thought
they were, yeah.
this was all happening. I wish I could remember. It may not have been in Africa, but the point is that I just skimmed through it real quick, but
Yeah.
it was another one that's just like, okay, we just found this jawbone. It's definitely man.
Yeah.
And it's modern man.
Right.
And it's way older than
Yeah.
possible in the out of Africa theory as it stands. So they're having to push it back. And it's like they're all lamenting the fact that we're going to have to rewrite the whole thing. And it's like, yeah, you've been avoiding doing that for fucking 150 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you basically need to do is not rewrite anything, but realize that it's all up in the air. Like this is the whole this is the manual for how the universe works, final edition.
Right.
Like they really want it to be final. Like we don't want to rewrite all these textbooks and all this explanation. You don't want to admit that what you've been teaching like hundreds of classes of students every year is completely wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna look this thing up real quick.
Because I know that there were two sort of things like that real close to each other. One was not
Phone's almost dead. 2%. Never mind.
One was not in Africa, and it pushed the theory back. But they were saying like this destroys the out of Africa theory. This implies that we didn't come out of Africa.
Right. There was the one that was in Europe.
Yeah, and then
Right.
there was another one. You're right. There was another one they found back in Africa, but it was really old, and it was like and it was in the wrong place. One jawbone wrong. One jawbone in wrong place. If any of you have ever had speak in math, those old things. One number right, one number in wrong place. So yeah, while Kyle's looking that up, like there are so many of these. I just went through some footprints, but there's the footprints, and there's the anomalous bones. Like he's talking about the jaw bones, but there's all the others. Any piece of human skeleton you can think of, they found in anomalous places and too deep in ancient stuff.
Yeah, here it is. This is I've never seen this site before. New Atlas.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oldest human fossil found outside of Africa rewrites migration timeline. So it's still the out of Africa.
Yeah.
But it's rewriting
Right.
the migration timeline. Okay, here they are lamenting it right in the beginning. The origin story of modern human is constantly being revised.
Not really.
But the general gist is that Homo sapiens first arose several 100,000 years ago in an area we now call Ethiopia, before migrating out of Africa about 100,000 years ago. Now a jawbone discovered in a cave in Israel. That's right.
Oh.
Pushes back the date of our African exodus by at least 50,000 years. Okay, that's basically the gist of it.
Okay, so they're like, no, it doesn't destroy the out of Africa theory. We just have to push it back so that the people that ended up in Israel that long ago still came from Africa. So we just push everything backwards, right? They left from Africa a lot earlier than we thought. Is that what they're saying? Basically, yeah.
Right.
And why did they go to Israel?
So here's another one. But that story has been upset by more recent discoveries. Back in June 2017, archaeologists found fossils and stone tools in Morocco dating back more than 300,000 years, indicating that modern humans were widespread across Africa earlier than previously thought. A more outlandish study even went so far as to claim that humans and chimps split from their last common ancestor in Europe, not Africa. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Millions of years ago. That study, however, has been widely contested. Of course.
Because it's not falsified, just contested. There's a big difference.
Yeah. The newest revelation is a little more believable and actually fits in nicely with the Morocco fossils.
Oh, God.
A team led by researchers from Tel Aviv University, blah, blah, blah. Fuck yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Yada, yada, yada,
Yada,
blah,
yada,
blah, blah.
yada, yada. It's an upper left section of jawbone, including most of the teeth. It was found alongside a range of stone tools, and when these were independently dated, they returned a similar age range. Extrapolating the exact species from a small section of bone can be tough, so the researchers ran micro CT scans of the fossil and made 3D models of it to study the internal structures of the teeth. Certain characteristics that are commonly seen in Neanderthals were missing, while other features that are only known to occur in modern humans were present and accounted for. Although the Mislaya, I don't know what it is, Mislaya fossil is clearly human, it does have some Neanderthal characteristics, but this is to be expected. After all, the Middle East at that time acted as a corridor for migration out of Africa, so several human groups would have met and mingled in the area, crossbreeding in the process.
Or they were being hunted by the Neanderthals, like that new theory says.
Quote, all of the anatomical details of the Mislaya fossil are fully consistent with modern humans, but some features resemble those found in the remains of the Neanderthals and other human groups, says Israel Hershkovitz, lead researcher on the study. This suggests that while Africa was the origin of our species, some of our traits must have evolved or been acquired outside of Africa.
From who?
I don't know. We acquired our modern
Traits.
features, modern traits. Yeah.
Right. From who? Like
Radiation. Yeah. I don't know. That was one of the other ones I couldn't remember.
yeah,
earlier,
that was
but-
cool. I'd forgotten the details of that too.
But yeah. When that one was found in Europe,
yeah,
that basically was like, okay, out of Africa doesn't work.
Right.
They're like, no.
it does. We just need to push it back farther.
No, that one they were just like that. That's why that one's highly contested.
Oh, yeah, that's
because
right.
it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. What's our time, by the way? I forgot to start this timer. I'm dumb. I totally forgot to start it. It says 000000000.
oh yeah, well, time's up.
Time's up.
Time's up, snakes.
Time's up, snakes. So we'll take our last break here, and we'll come back with the final segment, in which we will describe the river of fucking metal.
Fuck yeah. Deepest of mysteries discussed by the shallowest of humans. Damn it. Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
Wait.
Totally humble. Welcome back to the most badass podcast in the world. Hailing from the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science.
Of
Of awesomeness. Last segment. I know you're all shedding tears of joy right now that you get to listen to us for one more segment.
That's right.
It's supposed to
Deepest
be.
of subjects of this. Yeah, that's badass.
Sorry.
No, that was great. That was awesome. The deepest of subjects discussed by the shallowest of people.
I never practice intro shit, so I was trying to come up with some new
That was
stuff
badass.
on the fly.
We're gonna have to say that from now on. The shallowest of subjects discussed by the deepest of people.
The deepest of intellects. Discussing the shallowest of subjects.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been looking at this the pyramid, the Great Pyramid shafts mystery with the doors at the end.
The deepest of shafts.
That's right, the deepest of shafts and the greatest of pyramids discussed by the shallowest of people, which is really actually what's happening here. We're going to talk about that happening because digging into this has required me to like read a shitload of stuff that Hawass has said, which is just like enormous reminders of what a gigantic douchebag this guy is.
Since this is not going to be on the podcast,
Yeah,
fuck Hawass.
I'd like to say fuck Hawass. I hate that guy. Well, you know, that'll be okay because, you know, Russ basically spent 15 minutes saying fuck that guy. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to spend another 30 minutes saying it now. So Robert Bauval, who is the origin of he's the first one to sort of write about, and I think he's the origin of it, the Orion correlation, which is the...
Yeah, he's the Orion correlation guy.
Yeah, right. He's bald. You'll recognize him.
Yeah. The constellation of Orion shines off of his head.
That's right. It's totally recognizable. So he's been keeping up with everything going on in Egypt because he's good friends with some of the journalists there that are less state involved, I guess, you would say. You know, the ones that aren't state apparatchiks or whatever. So he has...
His bald head is basically a lens that collects all the light from the cosmos.
Right. Right. And there's a specific area above his right temple where the Egypt stuff hits, and he purposely reflects that onto his website. So his website is a great source for like in-depth explanations of these things that have happened, and he kind of does this recaps. Now I know...
Cranioscope.
Cranioscope. Bauval's cranioscope and Orion correlation shine.
Sorry.
I never watched the Discovery Channel special, that they did with the doors, like that whole bullshit so Gantenbrink is hired by the Ministry of Antiquities in Egypt to basically come there as an engineer and fix the problem that they were having inside the Great Pyramid with ventilation. Like all these tourists are coming in and out, and they're leaving moisture. Right, it's hot. It's the desert, so they go in there and they're all sweating. So the interior of the pyramid is becoming damp and more damp and more damp, and then that dampness is beginning to collect on the walls in the forms of salts and shit like that, and it's messing everything up. Right. So they hire him as a German. They're like, we need Germans. So they hired Germans to come in. They hired Gantenbrink to come in as an engineer to solve the problem of ventilation to get rid of it. So
well, he was like trying to get in there to do some research, and he pitched the idea to him. I thought he was pitching the idea like, hey, I can fix this problem. Like, let me come do that.
Maybe that
was the idea I got, but it doesn't matter.
He was initially hired. I know that he was initially hired as an engineer, and he ended up in the pyramid. So maybe he was hired to do something else.
He was going to clean out. I thought he was going to clean out the shaft and put in a ventilation system, but he was using that to get in there to do research.
Yeah, he wanted to do other research, but I think
anyway, splitting hairs.
Maybe you're right though, because I know that he also did it in other tombs. He was like hired to do stuff in other tombs, and maybe he pitched the idea of the ventilation stuff to them.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but
Doesn't matter.
But he wasn't intending to do like the whole shafts thing. Kind of comes up as because he has to clear out one of the king's chamber shafts to get the ventilation right.
Yeah,
because those go straight out, And he basically installed big squirrel fans in there, but he had to clean
but
them
we
out.
don't even know where the shaft goes out. But I am German. I can
That's right.
find it.
I am German. Clearly, I will find it. And he had done research on the into the historical stuff, and he said that okay, so in the 1800s, Petrie or one of these archaeologists found.
I am Gantenbrink. I am here to fix Dino pyramid.
I am expert to I fix pyramid.
Sorry, Jesus.
I am Gantenbrink. I am here to fix pyramid.
I am here to fix Dino pyramid.
Here to fix what pyramid?
Dinah, your pyramid.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
Dinah Cobble.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Dinosaur. So he found out that in the past they had found the exits, the exterior exits of the King's Chamber shafts. In other words, on the outside of the pyramid, they had found where they come out.
Right.
So he was like, well, we know that they come out. And I just need to go out there and find them again. They've been found before. So the first thing they did was they hiked all over the outside of the pyramid until they found the shafts, the two where they came out. And he had pictures of what they look like on his website. It was weird. Like you see all these, they see the layer of blocks, and then there's just this area where the blocks come out all tilted and weird.
Yeah.
It's the shaft structure. It comes out strange at a 45-degree angle. So but they had been full of rubble there. There's parts where they're jammed. Now the King's Chamber shafts go straight all the way down to right before they come into the King's Chamber, and then there's it levels out. So apparently there was just material, all these blocked parts and sand and everything had blown in there, and he had to clear all that shit out of there. And in doing so, he found all these tools that had been used by people before trying to clear it out. Like somebody had lugged this incredibly heavy, made of solid iron, wheeled. It was like a brick of iron that had wheels.
Yeah.
Right? And a hook on the back end. So they were they had a cable and they were rolling it down there and smashing the stuff, and they were pulling it back up and rolling it down. And somebody hoofed that all the way up the side of the pyramid to where the shafts come out, which is way up there. It's 2/3 of the way up. He was like, this must have been really hard. But anyway, he cleared all the rubble out of both shafts and put in fans to handle the ventilation. That was what got him interested in the shafts themselves, because after he cleared the rubble out, he built a robot that would run up the shafts so that he could get a good look at the interior all the way up to find out if there was anything else or any damage. And that was what made him interested, because he started thinking about the Queen's Chamber shaft, and he's like, wait a minute, we went all over the outside of the pyramid and they don't show up out there anywhere, but we know they're there. So he was like, well, I got this robot, so why don't I just run up the Queen shafts? And that was after he was done with everything, and that was okay. They were like, sure, you're a badass German, you just done all this work for us, go ahead, take your robot and go explore those shafts. So he did that, and the first mind-blowing thing he found out was that the north side Queen's Chamber shaft took a hard left, after 30 feet or so. It went up and went and took a left. And he was like, okay, this is not, nobody said anything about it taking a turn.
Yeah.
And after it turned again. And then he was having to maneuver the robot over what were, for it, very large cliffs and steps, which, it's an 8-inch passage. So if it's shifted and you've got a 2-inch drop or rise in the floor, that's big for this little robot in an 8-inch passage. And he eventually reached a point where he couldn't push the robot any farther down this one passage, so he went to the other side because there was this just too big of a drop.
Yeah.
Which he said it was earthquakes, right? That you could tell that earthquakes had shifted blocks around and stuff. So this one had dropped down for whatever reason during an earthquake, and now he couldn't get the robot over it. So he went to the other side and ran it up that shaft, and it started turning and everything too. But he was able to take that one all the way up to where they were above every known structure in the pyramid, and about 30 yards from the exterior of that side when he ran into the quote-unquote door.
Right.
And it freaked out the observer who was there with him. Because anybody in Egypt that's doing any kind of work or just being a tourist, you have to have a minder. They send an Egyptian person with you to watch you all the time. They have to be there. And so this guy every day somebody's coming in there, different people all the time, but somebody's in there, some Egyptian's in there with Gantenbrink while he's running the robot up and down. And he actually said for a while that like once these guys, these miners that were coming, they found out what he was doing. They were telling all their friends, and then everybody like he'd come in there to do the work, and there's like the room is full of people, and he's like, okay, no, I am German, I say no, like all you must leave except for the one guy. So they cleared them all out. So there was just one after that. But when he found the door, before he rolled up to the door, it was the stones were becoming more to the Tura type limestone, which is like an indication that there's a room because normally
they polished.
Yeah, the Tura limestone is beautiful white, almost white, and then most of the interior blocks that are not part of the rooms are this dark yellow stuff that was mined nearby. The Tura limestone's from far away.
Yeah,
but they used it for the cladding. The casing stones were made out of this stuff, and like it's so fine of a stone that even though it's limestone, you could polish it and it looks like marble. It's like once it's polished, it's shiny and beautiful.
It's badass.
And it's like got an eggshell color, whereas the stuff that they were mining nearby the pyramid is a dark yellow sort of,
Yeah.
And it's rough. You can't polish it. So most of the blocks that comprise the shafts all the way up, like when you're in the middle of it or whatever, it's that dark yellow stuff, and they're finished, but they're not polished, and you can kind of see it's rough. And there are other weird markings he found, scrape marks going up the walls. Like there's a scrape on this side and that side. There's places where it's been burned. Like it looks like there's a burn on the side that then somebody tried to chisel off, Lots of weird little details in there. But once he gets up to the door, I think the 2 blocks before you could see the door, because the camera, was obviously using a light. You couldn't see the door past 2 blocks. But you could see that the blocks were getting finer. And then he pulls up and there's this beautiful, like pristine, polished white door. And it's got these 2 black things sticking out of it.
What they're calling a door. It's stone. Polished white stone right in front of it.
Right. And the reason why they called it a door is because once he got close enough, you could see that the way it was set into the shaft implied that it could be moved from the other side.
Yeah. So like in the Queen's Chamber, the shafts from the Queen's Chamber weren't initially open to the Queen's Chamber. They had to remove a block.
Yeah. They had to break through the last 6 inches or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the other really strange thing that he talked about at great length. He was like, look, as an engineer, you're already saying, why did you do this for the King's Chamber shafts, right? Because like when you realize what the construction of the shafts are, where they basically you take a block, you cut a trough in the top of it, 8 inches wide by 8 inches deep. So you've got this square like trench running through the top of the block, and then you flip that block over and set it down on top of another one. That gives you your shaft. The bottom block is the floor, and the top block is the walls and ceiling. Then you tilt that whole thing 45 degrees, and then you run it up through the structure of the pyramid.
Right, where all the other blocks are sitting flat.
So you've got this tilted structure that starts at the chamber and it goes up, tilted or whatever, and has to go all the way to the exterior wall when you're starting in the middle from the King's Chamber.
Yeah.
And then so that means that you have to you have to put locking blocks in the structure around it so that the whole thing doesn't slide down into your chamber because it's right. So it's a really complicated, more than 2, it's like a 4-block system above and below, and then the 2 blocks that make up the shafts.
Side. Yeah.
And like he was like, as an engineer, this is an enormous headache. Because every layer that you're putting down, every layer of blocks has these like weird things sticking out that don't match up with anything. And everybody has to wait, right? Then you get your layers going, and then the shaft guys come and they put their next setup, and it's sticking out all weird, and it's an enormous headache for.
And then in the Queen's Chamber, they're not even open.
Right? They don't even not only do they not finish out into the chamber itself, they don't go out to the outside, and they take multiple turns inside the body of the pyramid. Yeah. He's like, why? Why would you do this? Like, this is a hell of a lot of work. And for them to not even finish it out into the chamber where no one even knows it's fucking there, you can't even see it. The King's Chamber's shafts did come out, and they finished in these beautiful, sharply cut square shapes. Yeah. But in the Queen's Chamber, there was nothing on the walls.
It's like they did that as in the King's Chamber. It's like, this is a clue that in the Queen's Chamber there is possibly something more mysterious.
Right.
And you get in there and it's like, they are here. And then you start to look and you're like, wait, they don't go out.
They're here, but the only reason they were found is because somebody got the bright idea looking at the King's Chamber. They're like, I wonder if those are in the Queen's Chamber. He went down there with a chisel and a hammer and was poking around on the walls until he heard a hollow spot, and then he actually chiseled them out and found the shafts. They were behind 4 or 5 inches of stone.
That's why I love Graham Hancock's
Yeah,
idea.
this is a giant puzzle.
Yeah, that it's a puzzle. That it's always, no matter what you've discovered, it's always trying your
Yeah.
ability to solve it.
Right.
There's something more.
Yeah. There's something more. And so when they
God,
first opened
badass.
when they first opened the Queen's Chamber shafts, I don't know which side or what, but objects fell out. Okay, when he first opened them, like the one of the objects was a stone ball, like perfectly spherical. There was some other thing that looked like a weird, what's the best way to describe it? Like a fleur de lis, like two leaves sticking up like this from a stem. Mm-hmm. It looked kind of like that, but or maybe it's a double-sided hook thing, metal that was in there. You know, like these weird objects fell out of the shafts, like
When the guy chiseled them open?
yeah, like they had fallen down from wherever
From another chamber.
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah. So
Nah.
so nah. So nah. so the door has these two. They're calling them copper handles. They don't look like handles. They look really, 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 really eroded, right? But they basically, you can see they stick out of the door at the same level, and they're bent down, like, and the door that Gantenbrink originally found. In the picture that he posted on his website, you can see the two copper handle thingies, and the one on the left is a lot longer, or it's one of them is a lot longer than the other one. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And you actually can see, if you look really closely, and he points this out, you can see on the floor just below the door, the floor of the shaft just below the door, the piece of the copper part of the short one that's been broken off. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that, you know, long story short, Gantenbrink gets kicked out of Egypt. Zahi Hawass flips out. Mark Lerner spends a lot of time telling everybody that this is not important. The doors aren't doors, and they're just it's all bullshit.
Yeah, I interrupted you, but you were getting to the guy that was in there watching him.
Yeah,
Like, it gets.
Oh yeah, that's right. When he first sees the door on the camera, on the TV that where the camera is being projected in the Queen's Chamber where they're doing this, when he first sees the door and the little copper handle things come into view, you can see these like white marks on them that are also sort of, there's these white marks behind them on the stone that are circular or whatever. They kind of look like white chalk or something on the copper handle thingies and on the stone behind the copper handle thingies. And the Egyptian minder guy who was watching this, like Gantenbrink said that he turned gray, like that he turned, you know, that like he turned white. He was terrified somehow, and he said he was like, these are seals. Those are seals, right? He was flipping out, like he literally turned pale, like he was terrified, and started shouting about how those were seals. And Gantenbrink was assuming that he was talking about these powdery white marks on the copper handles and the door, but it isn't really clear what the guy was talking about. He just started freaking out about this, and like really, literally, like the blood drained from his face. So Gantenbrink tried to ask Hawass and some other people, what is this deal with the seals? What are they talking about? And he could never really get any solid information on it, but he did determine that there was a kind of seal where they would sort of stick this gypsum stuff, this gypsum clay onto something, and then they would kind of, you know, you could, if you had a seal ring or whatever, you could impress the ring into that clay, you know, and make a clay seal on something. And maybe that's what the guy was talking about, but it isn't really clear because he doesn't say. But that really struck me. That was one of the most intense part of the stories to me, that this guy like literally turned freaking gray and started freaking out. And like, so he clearly saw something when he saw this door that scared the shit out of him. It scared him badly. And he went and told somebody something, because not too soon after that, Gantenbrink was kicked out of the country forever.
Yeah, and he had written
They told him to write a paper, and he did.
written this entire report on the whole thing, and then they went through all this rigmarole about publishing it, and it kept getting delayed, and they just never published it.
They never published it, and then they kicked him out of the country forever. Yeah, they just like, get out of here, and you can't go
And
back.
then they published like their own report on it that was just like bullshit. Basically.
Yeah, but well, they spent a lot of time downplaying it and saying it wasn't a big deal, and they already knew it. You know, all the stuff they always say. We already knew about it, and it's not really a door, and it's not that it's nothing really. It's not a great discovery. It's not, and like really that what Gantenbrink did was the first real archaeology that had been done in the Great Pyramid in like over 100 years. And it was the first major discovery that had been made on Giza in like the same amount of time. It was a big freaking deal, right? People have been trying to decipher the pyramid for forever. And like he just made this enormous discovery of something that nobody knew existed. And they were like, no, it's not a big deal. It's not blah, 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 you know. And they did that for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, and this is where I knew this happened, but I didn't watch the show and I wasn't paying attention. So when reading Baval's account of it, it was really interesting. Suddenly, Hawass and Lerner flip and start talking about how amazing this is. And this is about 10 years later. They're telling us it's amazing, right? This is an amazing find, and they start playing it up. And shit, I just lost the page. They start to sort of promote it, okay? And it turns out that they're doing that because some shenanigans have gone by, and like whoever owns the Discovery Channel has purchased the right to sort of make this show about this whole deal, to make a documentary about it. And the documentary was called, what was it called? Let me just find this page real quick. I shouldn't have lost it, but I did. If this wasn't Snake Bros, I would tell you to pause the recording so I can find this.
I'm looking at these pictures of the seals right now.
Yeah. Where is this thing?
Yeah, there's one. The one on the right is long, and it's kind of like a horseshoe nail, like an old rusted horseshoe nail.
Oh yeah,
like it's sort of tapered, but the top is round. If you were looking at the nail like vertically,
yeah,
and it looks like that. And then the one on the left it's broken off like halfway down, like
right.
the bottom half is gone.
Yeah, and you can kind of see a white circle behind that.
Yeah.
That's what Gantenbrink was thinking. The guy was saying was a seal, and there's another one behind the other one, but it's more obscure.
Oh yeah, I see it.
So those are the two. He was thinking those are the two gypsum whatever seals that were impressed on the material behind those copper thingies. That guy was freaking out, but nobody knows really. It's not clear what exactly the guy was freaking out about. He may have been talking about the door itself.
Yeah, it makes sense if the copper, let's say that they drilled. So this door, quote unquote door, this piece of stone, has a handle on the other side.
Yeah,
and it's drilled through in two places, left and right.
Yeah,
and then
bent
the copper is like a copper rod is bent into a horseshoe shape, and then the two ends are pushed through the holes and then bent down
on the backside.
On the backside
to make you a handle. Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
Right, it does look like that.
And it's on the top, like the top third.
Yeah. Right. And
which is weird.
And the door, the way
they're trying to pull a stone, you need to pull more from the bottom than from the top.
Well, it's very small. Remember that it's only 8 inches by 8 inches.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you could probably just pick it up. But and it's
still, if it's wedged into something, you don't want to pull it from the top where it's going to try to tilt.
But so Gantenbrink was showing that like because of what you can see there, you can tell that the way the stone is set against the shaft end, that the floor, the bottom part of the stone is below the floor, and the wall and the sides of it go past. You know what I'm saying? So it's sitting up against. It's not.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so it's kind of like leaned up.
It's not inside the shaft. It's sitting.
It's against the very end of the blocks.
So it could be in the middle of that block. Then.
Right. Yeah. So it's sitting against the end. It's not wedged in, but it anyway, so they started to promote this deal after 10 years of telling everybody that it was bullshit and didn't mean anything. Baval says, let's see, I'll start to read some from his. Okay, so on the 5th of August in 2002, an important notice appeared on the main website of the National Geographic. This notice proclaimed that on September 17th, a, quote, secret chamber, unquote, inside the Great Pyramid of Egypt would be revealed to the world, and that the opening of this chamber would be televised live to 141 countries around the world. Inside the Great Pyramid are two chambers, one known as the King's Chamber and the other as the Queen's Chamber. From the north and south walls of each of these chambers emanate small channels or shafts. The cross-section of these shafts is very small, about 20 by 20 centimeters, or 8 inches. The shafts first run for a few meters horizontally before turning upward sharply to rise within the solid core of the pyramid. Those from the King's Chamber pierce the pyramid all the way to the outside, but those in the Queen's Chamber stop some 65 meters within the core of the monument. It has long been known that these shafts have stellar alignments and were directed to important stars associated with the rebirth rituals of the pharaohs. In 1964, Alexander Badawi and Virginia Trimble had worked out that the southern shaft of the King's Chamber pointed towards Orion's belt when the Great Pyramid was built. In 1987, and this is Robert Bauval speaking, I discovered that the alignment of the southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber had pointed to Sirius. Orion was identified as Osiris, the god of resurrection, and Sirius was identified to Isis, his sister and also his wife. Osiris and Isis were the mythological parents of the pharaoh. The shafts, therefore, were magical devices associated to the cosmic birth and rebirth of the pharaohs. Knowing this, it was, to say the least, very strange synchronicity that on the 5th of August, the day of the heliacal rising of Sirius in Egypt, the National Geographic chose to announce the world that they were about to commence a daring exploration inside the Sirius shaft, an attempt to see what was behind a small trapdoor discovered in 1993 by the German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink. Okay.
93.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mother of all documentaries. This was going to be the mother of all archaeological documentaries, one of those great moments in factual television history that everyone had waited for since March of 1993. This was when Rudolf Gantenbrink, a German robotic engineer, used a miniature robot called Upout 2, and Upout is the very ancient name of
Anubis?
Yes, Anubis, the dog, yeah. To explore the mysterious shafts of the Queen's Chamber and discovered a small quote-unquote door with copper quote-unquote handles at the end of the southern one, some 65 meters away from the wall of the chamber. Since then, the whole world had wanted to know what was behind this mysterious door. And now, after nearly 10 years of excruciating delays and with Gantenbrink himself out of the picture, the Egyptian authorities had taken over the project and had finally given the green light to a new joint venture team formed between Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the National Geographic Society of America, and iRobot, an offshoot of MIT Laboratories at Boston. This high-powered new team was to be headed by Dr. Zahi Hawass, one-time director of the Giza Pyramids, and now, since May 2002, the new chairman of the SCA. Hawass had also been appointed by National Geographic as their, quote, explorer in residence, an elitist designation given to only 7 other scientists in the world. It was also announced that a state-of-the-art high-tech robot named Pyramid Rover, costing over $250,000, had been specially designed by iRobot. A point was made by National Geographic that iRobot had supplied the robots that had been used to search for victims of the September 11th attack in New York. This new exploration of the southern shaft of the Queen's Chamber was to be aired live to 141 countries by National Geographic Television, but that was not all. It was also announced that Fox TV had bought the broadcast rights for the live transmission in the USA. The provocative title of the program was Secret Chambers Revealed, and, when they don't even know what's going to be revealed. And this, when coupled with the high-profile team, was seen as a guarantee of wonderful things to come. Huge expectations of a hidden chamber with pharaoh's treasures and golden mummies were encrusted in the public's imagination. An aggressive promotional campaign was put into motion, and the public was teased to a frenzy with banner titles like Egypt, Secret Chambers Revealed. 4,500 years ago, a door was sealed for eternity, and on September 17th, we open it live.
Yeah,
Egypt,
right.
secret chambers revealed for the first time ever. Come on a journey into the mysterious and never-before-seen secret chambers of the Great Pyramid of Khufu. It was also announced that Dr. Hawass would also open live, for the first time, a sarcophagus of an overseer of the pyramids, unquote, and there were hints of a potential great find. Yet this was only to be the sideshow, for the real interest was the exploration by the new robot in the Great Pyramid, and, more especially, how it would reveal what is behind the small door in the shaft. Since 1993, there had naturally been much speculation whether it was the entrance to a secret chamber, and it was thus not surprising that now the millions of potential viewers around expected that National Geographic would indeed open this door and reveal the secret chamber live on the 17th of September as they so boldly advertised. After all, this was a prestigious and highly respected institution with a reputation for credibility and scientific sobriety. Although normally shy to speculate on the potential archaeological discovery of this kind, National Geographic allowed their promotional departments a wide margin of license to hype this show. The same was done by Dr. Hawass and Dr. Lehner, the latter also a grantee of National Geographic and a main participant in the show. Both men went on promotion tours in Asia, Australia, and Europe. In an interview given to the British Daily Mail, Lehner exclaimed, "What do I think is in there? I think it might be a serdab. A serdab is a sealed room for a Ka statue, a statue of the dead king which embodied his Ka or life spirit. The oldest pyramid of the 100 major pyramids of Egypt is a step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, and that is a serdab. Because his stone box is tilted, he, the statue of Djoser, is looking straight at the sky. It is almost as if he is sealed in a stone capsule about to be launched towards Orion. And Dr. Hawass told the same newspaper that there might be a papyrus of Khufu's sacred book, which has never been found.
Oh my God.
We know it once existed. The Egyptian priest who first wrote out the list of pharaohs, which is Manetho, by the way, of Egypt, gave potted history against each name. And one entry is Khufu also wrote the sacred book. And Khufu was the man who built the biggest pyramid. His sacred book might be reasonably expected to explain how, and more importantly, why. In other words, why and how he built the pyramid. Such bold speculation was most uncharacteristic of these two men. Indeed, in 1993, when Rudolf Gantenbrink found the door, Leonard was quick to downplay the find and insisted it was just a stone block. It's just a block, right? It's just a rock. The same went for Hawass in subsequent years. So what had changed the view of these scholars to the point of making a complete 180-degree turn? Was it because they were now part of a big promotion campaign for a Big Bucks live worldwide broadcast? The game, of course, was to hook sponsors and advertising with a dazzling array of on-air and off-air possibilities who could stamp their products and logos on ancient Egypt and, more excitingly, on the Great Pyramid and its potential secret chamber. The off-air opportunities entailed organizing road shows and lectures and interviews and exhibitions with Hawass and Leonard, no doubt imaged as the real Indiana Jones. A plethora of creative thinking came up with lecture series for Leonard to complement its global programming event, while exhibitions were organized in the Far East for Dr. Hawass. According to National Geographic channel marketing manager Jacinta Lehinan, these events were designed to promote programming, which in turn offered substantial leverage for advertisers and sponsors. World-renowned Egyptologist Dr. Mark Lehner will deliver, for the first time on Australian soil, his lecture, Who Built the Pyramids?, to audiences in Sydney and Melbourne. In addition to the educational publicity roadshow that surrounds this visit, these events will be free to the public and offer advertisers and other partners an additional forum for involvement with National Geographic. The channel is striving for greater interactivity with its viewers and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money. No, they didn't say that, sorry. And its advertisers, so these events are not simply about sponsors stringing up banners and plastering logos. At such events, sponsors have the opportunity to showcase and align their products with the National Geographic brand and be involved in comprehensive marketing and communications initiatives targeting many demographics. It is all about participation and lots and lots and lots and lots of
whatever
money.
the fuck. Come on.
Damn it. Okay. So there's a bunch more here about Fox buying the rights to show it. And then there's some stuff about how a bunch of archaeologists get mad because people go on TV and speculate that it was aliens that built the pyramids. And let's see. Yeah. I want to get to
Yeah. Fuck all that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going past it. Double standards. Yeah, they're embarrassed and shocked. And door-to-door salesmen because they're trying to sell this stuff. Let's see. Where is it? 450 years of speculation. I will find it. Okay, so once the show is started, Hawass starts becoming crazy, right? Okay. Unable to fully believe the behavior of Dr. Zahi Hawass, Dr. Aidan Dodson, fellow in the Department of Archaeology at Bristol University, said, most people expected this privately. This whole thing was blown out of proportion by the lunatic fringe of alleged archaeologists and pseudoscientists. These people have written best-selling books saying the pyramid holds links to Atlantis behind this door, and that archaeologists have deliberately refused to examine this shaft because it shows civilization was 10,000 years older than originally thought. It wouldn't surprise me if Dr. Hawass did this just to put these people down once and for all, okay? Right? And that is because, let's see, that's because of the stuff that he was saying when they found out that behind the door was another door. So when they drilled through, basically they found, I think it was 40 centimeters away, what they decided was another door. I'm not sure if that's really what was going on, and I'm not even sure yet if they really did this, because when you look at the picture of the door that Gantenbrink took, and then you look at the picture of the door, which is supposedly the same door of the one that they drilled through in the National Geographic thing, in the National Geographic picture, the two copper things are the same length. Gantenbrink's door clearly has one way shorter than the other one.
Yeah. Well, it broke off since 1993.
Right.
It just fell. Maybe they ran into it or something.
But what if they were both long?
Yeah.
No, but they're not. I'm just saying. No, they were both short. Yeah. But they're not the right length. The short one isn't short enough. The short one in Gantenbrink's picture is shorter than what you see in the other ones. But anyway, so when they drill through, this is supposed to be the highlight. This is supposed to be the climax of the show. And they drill through, and Hawass is like, it's it's another door. It's a moment of truth, but it's just another door. He says, what we have seen tonight is totally unique within the world of Egyptology. The presence of a second door only deepens the intrigue.
Why didn't they just drill through that one?
I don't know.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, but Zahi Hawass is recorded on this thing live. He says, we could see another sealed door. That's what he said. And then he starts to say that it's unique and badass and amazing because there's another door. So much for scientific unbiased logic. But the truth was easy for all to see. Dr. Zahi Hawass had taken Egyptology on yet another embarrassing live romp around Egypt's antiquities. Many felt that he could have, for instance, stayed calm and given his professional view on the finding of the second door, but instead it went this way. So, and you know who the person who was the anchor, whatever, the anchor babe that was working with him was Laura, what's her name?
No idea.
Yeah, you know who she is.
Laura Ingram?
Not Ingram.
No idea.
I recognize the name, so I know you would do. Well, I can't find it. It's all right. Anyway, I'll go back down to this part. So, okay, so Hawass had gone running around and he'd opened that sarcophagus. And this is the part where, like, I think we talked about this before, where he just went digging into the guy's body. You know, he's just like digging his hands into the mummy or whatever. Like he rips pulls the sarcophagus open with his hands, and then he starts like digging around in the bones and everything. And the woman, the Laura who's following him, the anchor babe who's following him around, like if you're watching the documentary, you hear their steps are like crunchy, and you realize later that they were walking on people's bones. Like they were just crunching bones and walking around in there. And it's like, it's archaeologically wise, this was a travesty, right? They go into this tomb of this guy, and Hawass tears the lid off of his sarcophagus, and like basically starts digging around in his body. And like meanwhile, they're crunching on bones of other people on the floor of the tomb.
Jesus.
And you can hear it.
This is in the same documentary?
Yeah. It's in the same thing. Let's see. So yeah,
We're getting up. I mean, we're at.
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
Past here, so
it's okay.
Letting you know, like.
Yeah. Okay. So then he starts to go, like Zahi gets anti-Semitic, like incredibly anti-Semitic. He starts to say that all this is proof that the Jews didn't build the pyramid. Okay. I'm serious. He says, okay, it was clear to all, certainly to presenters Jay Shadler and Laura Green, that Zahi Hawass was extra keen to remind the world that it was the great Egyptians who built the pyramids and not slaves. But how could the finding of the second door and ancient skeleton prove, quote unquote, prove this? And even if they were slaves, surely they were also Egyptians. So what was the problem? Did Zahi have something else in mind that prompted such declarations? He was well known in Egypt for often declaring to the press that he was at, quote, war with all those who attacked Egyptians by claiming it was the, quote, Jews, i.e. the quintessential, quote, slaves of ancient Egypt that had built the pyramids. For example, not long ago in an Arabic language publication, Hawass accuses Jews of, quote, stealing the pyramids, unquote, by claiming to have built them. Quote, the Jews are thieves of history and civilization, unquote. He is quoted by the Egyptian Reporter. Okay, so this is a direct quote. The discovery of the tombs of the workmen who built the pyramids was tremendously important to Egyptians because it proved the greatness of Egypt was the product of both Egyptian genius as well as Egyptian labor. It is especially important vis-a-vis Israeli claims that it was their Jewish slave ancestors who built the pyramids, but also vis-a-vis theorists who would have that the pyramids were built by Atlanteans or aliens. We can detect in the above statement certain keywords like, quote, greatness of Egypt and, quote, Egyptian genius and, quote, Jewish slave ancestors, which are reminiscent to what Hawass also said on National Geographic and later to the press. This question thus begs the asking, has Hawass been making the same point, i.e. that it was not Jewish slaves who built the pyramid on the National Geographic show? So he was saying this stuff live and they couldn't stop him. Like, this is another thing he said. I feel that the opening of the sarcophagus and that skeleton we found shows the importance of the discovery of this, and this completely discards the theory about the pyramid built by slaves, because slavery cannot build something genius like building the pyramid, and then I will tell the public that everyone who tries to talk against the Egyptians should shut their mouths. What provokes such an outburst? Anyway, so he goes on about this, and like it's interesting because he digs into Hawass's like massive anti-Semitism. But
I'm looking at these the only pictures I could find of that door. There's Gantenbrink's picture.
yeah,
Which is far better resolution
Right.
than
I noticed that too.
Than the live door picture. It's
Yeah.
like all blurry.
And you do
shit.
see that the things were different.
Yeah, the seals or the copper
Handle things.
handles
Yeah.
are way different. Well, they look to be in the relatively same position, but the right one is not long. It's short.
Yeah.
It's broken off right at the little circle that's underneath it.
Right.
But it's still like you can't, like in Gantenbrink's picture in '93.
Right.
It's way higher resolution, and I couldn't find.
I think he's a lot closer too. He's a lot closer to the door there.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Like I can't find a higher resolution image
Right.
of something that they did in what year was it?
It was 2003 or something like
Yeah,
that.
2003. Like it should be
Yeah, it should be better.
high resolution
It's
where
not.
you can pick out like the different characteristics of the walls and
but they don't want you to be able to do that. And remember that most of these pictures are taken from the TV broadcast too, so they're going to be low res. Because that was before they were doing the digital high resolution, high definition TV broadcast.
Still, it's just
Yeah, I know. So looking at that and like let's just go ahead and for the sake of argument, let's assume that they're right, that they really did drill through that thing and they really did find a short chamber with another door behind it. So let's assume that that's actually what's there, okay? Like in Baval's thing, he says that they reported later, they didn't put this on TV, but they reported later that they also went up the other side, up the other shaft, found another door, and drilled through that one and found another door behind that one too. So now the idea is that both shafts have doors at the ends. Gantenbrink couldn't get to the end of one of the shafts, so he did.
Yeah.
So now they're saying both shafts have doors at the ends, and both of those doors behind them have a short chamber with another door. Okay, without handles. The second door does not have any copper.
Did they turn the camera around and look at the other side of the door that they just drilled through?
No, I wish.
Dumb.
I mean, you saw what they were using. Like, they had this drill thing with a camera on the end of it, and they just extended it in there. They couldn't bend it or whatever. It was stupid. But they expected to like stick it through and see gold and pharaoh stuff. You know, that was what they were hoping for. They weren't planning to have to turn around and look at the door. Anyway, it's interesting because, like, so assuming that that's all correct and nobody was faking anything, and so there really are doors and so on and so forth. Like, I was thinking about that, and you see this reflected in the King's Chamber entrance. Okay, so the entrance to the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid has a series of 3 doors.
Yeah.
So that could explain why there's multiple doors. Like, basically what we're seeing is the first 2 doors of an entrance into a king-related chamber or whatever, like a chamber related to the...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Their
There's the 3 granite plugs and shit leading to
the portcullis or whatever, the portcullis system. And it's like there's 3... Yeah, that's what that is. It's like theoretically, it was a series of 3 granite doors. They call it a portcullis door system.
Portcullis, yeah.
Yeah, portcullis, yeah. So like maybe that's what this is at the end of it. I don't know. If it really is 3 or 2 doors, then maybe there's a third one, and then the chambers behind all that.
But they couldn't be bothered with getting a longer drill bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was too much. There was too much excitement. They need to wait 10 more years. It was too much.
Oh, God.
Maybe the Scan Pyramids guys will figure all this out.
Yeah.
They'll get up in there and they'll find out that their big chamber is actually connected to both of those shaft things. And they're like, yeah,
That'd
let's
be
come out of
bad.
the ceiling. And it's just that they're light, like they're a place for lights.
Yeah, nowadays we should be able to fly little tiny miniature drones up those shafts. and
Yeah,
get
they're going to use a blimp drone. It's gonna be badass.
ridiculously badass, like high resolution shit.
Yeah, blimp drones. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, like up the shafts.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. Yeah,
That'd be badass.
like a little bitty wasp sized. I mean, like
Yeah.
you have to be pretty good to control it up that 8 inch by 8
computers.
inch. Nah,
do
you
it.
can't send a signal really through all that stone.
Oh,
Gantenbrink had to run. I mean, they had to run wires behind those
yeah, I know.
to power them and to control them because they can't
Send audio signals to control it.
control it with notes.
Control it with sound. Yeah. Ultrasound. Yeah, that is a higher attenuation. But anyway.
Bass.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was basically my idea that maybe this is a series of 3 doors. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I can't believe they didn't drill through the second one. At least.
I can. I agree with
I
the
mean,
sentiment.
I can too.
I
but-
can because they're fucking assholes, but I wish they had. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they drilled through the other door. Maybe they did. Maybe they did drill through this first door and this second. I don't know. I know that when I first saw that, they were like, oh yeah, and the second door was like all rough, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because like at the end of the shaft, they basically started to use the Tura limestone blocks, and they're all smooth and polished, and the door is smooth and polished and beautiful, and then behind that is this rough chamber that looks like crap, and then a door that looks like crap that has no handles, and I'm just like, whatever. Like it's not. I thought it was a hoax. I was like, they just set this whole thing up, and didn't really go up there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But the whole Hawass, like he starts freaking out during the show, like live TV, that Jews didn't build the pyramid and they're trying to steal Egypt's heritage. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah,
National
dude.
Geographic was probably like, what do you say? It's live TV. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the show. Manuscript 512, Weird Doors in Egypt.
Episode 33.
Episode 33, Strange Footprints.
Secrets.
Lots of secrets and wrong dates, basically. Wrong dates in the secrets. So you guys can get a hold of us on the blog. Go check it out. I've been working on it. It's getting better. It's looking cool. I'm cleaning a lot of extraneous bullshit off of there, paring it down, and, changing some colors a little bit. We've gone in and added full descriptions to the shows that didn't have descriptions, with pictures with descriptions on there. So, you might want to go back and listen to those shows again and then check the pictures out. It's pretty cool. There's episode 5 has a huge list of pictures on there. So like that one really is worth listening to again and checking it out. I put a bunch of photos in there that explains, because we talked about a bunch of stuff in that episode, and the photos are really helpful. So you can check that out. You can comment, and some of you have been commenting. That's really cool. Thank you, and I've replied to them. And you guys can get a hold of us at brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com. You can email us there, which some of you have been doing too. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep, we appreciate all the communications, and we try to reply to all of it.
I don't.
Well, yeah, I do. Kyle says you should reply to this, and I'm like, yeah, right. And if you listen to this through your phone or podcast setter, we recommend Beyond Pod because it's badass. Get Beyond Pod; it's amazing. You can see the pictures and everything. The descriptions are right there. Like they just show up with the show. It's great. You don't have to go to the website if you don't want to. But you can also get us on Stitcher. If any of you have ever used Stitcher, I don't use it. But Stitcher, Tuned In, you can go there. You can go to Stitcher and Tuned In and to iTunes to give us 5 stars and tell everybody we're awesome.
Yeah.
Only do that. It needs to only be doing that. Like, if you don't have anything good to say something better. You can tell us we suck in the email, okay? And as I always say, you can't give us stars on Google because Google's great. So, but yeah, we appreciate all of you guys listening, and thanks to AWAC Productions, Aetherium Studios, RK Enterprises, Kyle and Ty for the music, and me sometimes, and Byman.
$50 Dynasty.
$50 Dynasty.
Yeah, if you like the music, go check out $50 Dynasty.
Yeah, you can check out $50dynasty.com. And actually, where you're downloading all of the podcasts is from $50dynasty.net. You just don't know that.
Secret chamber within $50dynasty.net.
Secret snake rose chamber in $50dynasty.net. That's right. So thanks to $50 Dynasty for loaning us their
hosting.
Their hosting. Yeah, totally stealing most of the bandwidth.
Hell yeah.
And thanks to you Russians.
Stealing bandwidth from the band.
That's right, stealing bandwidth from the band. And thanks to all you Russians. You guys, we don't know who you are, but we see in the metrics that there's Russians listening, so you guys are awesome.
Keep listening.
That's right. Please keep listening. We will
and send us pictures of
weird shit in
meteorites.
Russia. Yeah. I want some dolmens. Damn it. So that's it. I think I've said everything, right? Is that
My
everything?
lighter's out of flint.
Wait, Flint. I think I've said everything. We didn't talk about the River of Metal, but maybe we'll get to that one day.
That's going to happen.
It's going to be intense. River of Metal.
Snakes.
Everything's on fire. Good night, Adamu. Go burn. go burn snakes.
Don't burn snakes.
Don't burn
But
snakes.
just snakes.
Just burn everything.